Hello all, a warm good afternoon and welcome to the second session of Virtuosa 2020 webinar series organized by Kumbalatte Shankupilla Memorial Devasam Board College, Shastangota. Let us start the program after seeking blessings from Almighty with a prayer. Shall we have a silent prayer? The success of every program depends on the combined efforts of participants and organizers. Today we have a packed audience, and to formally welcome each one of you to the webinar, I invite Professor Renushri, Head of the Department of Commerce of our college, to deliver a welcome speech.
Very good afternoon to one and all. Today, it is the second session of the webinar series Virtuosa 2020, and we feel really happy that all of us could keep up the spirits even during this adverse pandemic period. The duty entrusted upon me is to deliver the welcome speech. First and foremost, it is my privilege to welcome our respected principal, Dr. K.S. Anil Kumar. Sir, without your encouragement and support, this wouldn't have materialized. On behalf of the IQAC and all the participants, I extend to you a very hearty welcome. For the second day's session, we have here with us today Dr. Madhu S. Nair, who is a renowned personality in the field of artificial intelligence and computer science. Sir, on behalf of our college and all the participants, I extend to you a very warm welcome. Welcome, sir. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome all the delegates participating in this webinar. More than 350 delegates from different parts of the country have registered for this webinar series, which includes head of the institutions, academicians, research scholars, and students. I welcome each and every one of them to this session. Last but not the least, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our retired teachers, colleagues, and students from our college. Welcome all of you to the second session of Virtuosa 2020. Welcome.
Thank you, Renu. As I already said, there are many persons who have morally supported this venture. Our Honorable Minister of Higher Education is one among them, and let us hear him again. Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Dr. K.T. Jelly.
നാം ഇക്കാലമത്രയും സ്വീകരിച്ചു പോന്നിരുന്നത് ഒരധ്യാപകൻ, ഒരു ക്ലാസ് റൂം, അതിൽ കുറേ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾ, അവരോട് അധ്യാപകൻ സംവദിക്കുന്നു, ക്ലാസ്സുകൾ എടുക്കുന്നു. അതിൽ നിന്ന് മാറി സഞ്ചരിക്കേണ്ട കാലം അതിക്രമിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ലോക്ക്ഡൗണിൻ്റെ ഈ സമയം നമ്മളെ ബോധ്യപ്പെടുത്തുന്നത്. കൊറോണ വൈറസിൻ്റെ വ്യാപനം, COVID-19 എന്ന മഹാമാരിയെ ലോകത്ത് വിതച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ലോകം മുഴുവൻ വീട്ടിലടക്കപ്പെട്ട അവസ്ഥയിലായിരുന്നു ഏതാണ്ട് 1.5-2 മാസക്കാലം. അറിവിന് മാത്രം നമുക്ക് മൊറട്ടോറിയം പ്രഖ്യാപിക്കാൻ കഴിയില്ല. സമാനമായ സാഹചര്യങ്ങൾ ഭാവിയിലും ഉണ്ടാകാം. അത്തരം സന്ദർഭങ്ങളിൽ നൂതനമായ സങ്കേതങ്ങൾ, അറിവ് പകർന്നു നൽകുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്താൻ സാധിക്കണം. അതിനുതകുന്ന ഒരു പദ്ധതി നമ്മളുടെ സംസ്ഥാനത്ത് എല്ലാ ഉന്നത വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളിലും, സ്കൂളുകൾ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളിലും ആരംഭിച്ചിരിക്കുകയാണ്. തിരുവിതാംകൂർ ദേവസ്വം ബോർഡിൻ്റെ അധീനതയിലുള്ള ശാസ്താംകോട്ടയിലെ കുമ്പളത്ത് ശങ്കുപിള്ള സ്മാരക ദേവസ്വം ബോർഡ് കോളേജിൽ IQACയുടെ നേതൃത്വത്തിൽ വരുന്ന ഒരാഴ്ചക്കാലം നടത്തപ്പെടുന്ന വെർച്വോസ എന്ന വെബിനൽ സീരീസിന് എല്ലാവിധ ഭാവുകങ്ങളും നേരുന്നു. നമ്മുടെ സംസ്ഥാനം
The support of management is one of the most important factors as far as an educational institution is concerned. Let us now hear some short words of encouragement from Advocate N. Vijay Kumar, Honorable Member of Travancore Devaswam Board.
നമ്മയെല്ലാം വീട്ടിനുള്ളിൽ തളച്ചിട്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഒപ്പം തന്നെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുടെ ഇന്റേണൽ ക്വാളിറ്റി വർദ്ധിപ്പിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി ശാസ്താംകോട്ട കോളേജ് മെയ് 14 മുതൽ 20 വരെ നടത്തുന്ന വെർച്വോസ 2020 വളരെ മഹനീയമായ ഉദ്യമമാണ്. ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ പുത്തൻ നൂതന സാങ്കേതിക വിദ്യകൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളെ പഠിപ്പിക്കുന്ന രീതി ദേവസ്വം ബോർഡിൻ്റെ കീഴിലുള്ള പല കോളേജുകളിലും ആരംഭിക്കുകയാണ്. ശാസ്താംകോട്ട കോളേജിലും വെർച്വോസ 2020 എന്ന പേരിൽ മെയ് 14 മുതൽ 20 വരെ നടത്തുന്ന വെബിനാറിന് എല്ലാവിധ ആശംസകളും നേരുന്നു.
The experience of senior faculty of the college plays a vital role in proper management of every event conducted here. This webinar is also no exception to it. Representing the senior faculty, Professor Suman, Head of the Department of English, will share us with some encouraging words.
Good afternoon. We are living in unique times right now, with work and even daily life disrupted or cancelled for just about everyone. We are in a crisis, but we know that learning must never stop. I am extremely proud and delighted to know that the IQAC of KSMDB College is conducting the webinar series VIRTUOSA2020. We know that webinars generate content which can be shared around, referenced, and is permanent. This is the future. I congratulate our principal, Dr. Kumar, who has been the inspiring and guiding spirit behind the endeavor. Also Dr. Jayasri, IQAC coordinator, and all the brains behind this. Thank you.
Our principal, Dr. Kumar, rendered all his support to all such efforts, and let me invite Dr. Kumar to say a few words of encouragement.
Good afternoon to all. This is a very good moment I have to share with you that the KSMDB College is organizing a webinar series, VIRTUOSA 2020. Yesterday we had a nice section by Dr. Sabu Thomas in the field of macromolecules. Today we have another one eminent faculty in computer science, Dr. Madhu Nair. He is very close to me, one of my best friends, and I know him very well personally, one of the best academician and a computer scientist in India. The topic is also very informative for the researchers and academicians. Quantitative analysis of research, productivity, role of journal indexing, and SCIENTOMETRICS. Both these topics are very important. That is the role of journal indexing and SCIENTOMETRICS. So with the limited time, he will try to explain very effectively for the importance of journal indexing and SCIENTOMETRICS. And so under this situation, everybody knows that our country is facing a unprecedented outbreak of the COVID pandemic situation. So the universities and colleges, they shut down the system, and we are facing the practical difficulties of managing the teaching learning process and research activities. Under this situation, we are using with the help of IT to implement a new strategy, and we adopt a technique to disseminate the knowledge through a new innovative teaching learning system. Under this circumstance, so with the constant effort of our faculty, and they are taken a lot of pain to materialize this conference, especially the IQAC, the leadership headed by the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Jayasri, and a technical team, very excellent and young dynamic people of our institution. They actively involved the conference to be a success. So under this situation, I express my deep gratitude to the my friend Dr. Madhu Nair and the faculty members, those who behind for materializing this conference. Wish you all the best, and thank you for a bright future.
Thank you, sir, for the nice words. And now it's time to move on to the technical session. Today is the second day of VIRTUOSA 2020, and today's technical session is handled by Dr. Madhu Nair, who is working as Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science, Cochin University of Science and Technology. He holds an MCA from Mahatma Gandhi University and an MTech in Computer Science with first rank from the University of Kerala. He completed his PhD in Image Processing from MG University. He started his academic career as a lecturer in computer science at Rajagiri College of Social Science in the year 2004. And then he joined the University of Kerala, and after a brief stint, there was assistant professor in the year 2018. He joined QUSAC and is continuing there. He's an author of 62 research papers and 20 book chapters. He's a reviewer of about 55 research journals in computer science, and there are 9 PhD research scholars under his supervision, among which 2 of them were awarded with PhD. He's a recipient of prestigious awards such as Swami Vivekananda Yuva Pratibha Puraskaram of Government of Kerala, IET Srimati Manorama Rathur Memorial Award, CSI Distinguished Assistant Professor Award, SSI Young System Scientist Award, IEI Young Engineers Award, AICT Career Award for Young Teachers, etc. His research interests include digital image processing, computer vision, machine learning, soft computing, pattern recognition, data compression, and scientometrics. Now, topic of his presentation today is quantitative analysis of research productivity, role of journal indexing, and scientometrics. With immense pleasure and on behalf of all participants of Virtuosa 2020, I invite Dr. Madhu S. Nair to handle the technical session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratika, for the nice words. Good afternoon to all of you. So first of all, I would like to thank my close friend, Dr. Kumar, the principal of your college, the DB College, Shastankota, and Dr. Jayashree, the IQAC coordinator, for inviting me for this webinar. So I'll be extremely happy today to share the knowledge which I've acquired as part of my research activities. That doesn't mean that my knowledge in this area is complete. Whatever knowledge I've acquired, I just want to share with you with this limited amount of time. So I hope you will enjoy this session. And if you need any clarifications or doubts, at any time you can interrupt and you can ask the doubts, no problem. So can I share the screen now?
Sure.
So I hope all of you can see this presentation.
Yes, sir.
So the topic today I'm going to deal with is a very relevant one. It's known as the quantitative analysis of research productivity, and what is the role of journal indexing and scientometrics in this process. Before I begin, I think I should share this information. I think 2 days back, I saw a report which has been published by the Elsevier India research team, where they have done an elaborate study on the research productivity of the universities, especially in the Kerala state. And I should say it's quite unfortunate that if you look at the statistics that has been shown by the research team, it says that our record, our impact, the citation impact of all the universities in Kerala together, the average is only 0.77, which is below the global average of 1. So only if we have a value more than 1, we can say that is above average. But unfortunately, in all the universities impact together, if we club it together, and if you look at it, it's only 0.77. So that makes this topic more relevant, I should say. And they have done a lot of other studies, like how much international collaborations we have, and through these international collaborations, what was the impact that you got. All those details they have mentioned. I have just pointed out one specific aspect, which is known as the field weighted citation impact, which is only 0.77, which is that particular figure. I think I should open all the authorities of the university should definitely take immediate action so that the quality of publications that comes out from the state should be improved. So we'll go to the further details. So let me begin with a very important quote. It says that there is no way to get experience except through experience. I hope all of you agree that. And even I am delivering this lecture only because of my experience. Otherwise, you would not have been invited me for this presentation, right? So I hope all of you might have enough experience in your research topic, and I think in this aspect also you should have enough experience, because as a research scholar, I hope some of you might have already completed your PhD program, and some of you may be in the middle of in the middle of their program, or maybe some of you may be planning to join the PhD program. So all of you should know about this particular aspect, and I should mention the name of my friend and my well-wisher, Mr. Jyoti Babu, the librarian of University of Kerala, who actually introduced me to this vast topic. So I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Jyoti Babu also for introducing me to this world of SCIENTOMETRICS. Another aspect I would like to share is that if you look at any research, the ideal case is that we want to share the findings and discoveries with the objective of improving the existing systems. I hope you agree with that. That is the basic objective of any research. So that is the ideal case. And practically the advantage is that if you do good research, definitely you will get the funding. You will get enough points so that you get promoted to the senior post. And sometimes to get a job also, it will be very helpful. And the last point, I think it's not relevant in Kerala, especially in India. I think in foreign countries, if you want to keep your job, you have to be productive, very productive. Otherwise, you will lose your job. So let me give one more quoting that the scientists are always rated by what they finish and not by what they attempt. So if you are doing research, then definitely you should complete it on time, so that it can immediately be published in a reputed journal, and you will get recognition or you will get citation from all over the world. So you have to finish, if you are involved in any work, finish it as early as possible so that you will get the credit. So I think we'll start with the basic aspects of a research paper publication. I think some of you may be already knowing this, but those who are joining for the PhD enroll, they should know this. So this is the flowchart of a basic manuscript submission process. The first aspect, definitely you can agree, that's the completion of research. And after that, you will select a journal to which it has to be communicated, and how it should be selected, I will we'll discuss about it later. And once you have selected the journal, you should prepare the manuscript according to the style of the journal. So it can be either Elsevier, Springer, or IEEE, whatever be the publisher. You will prepare the manuscript according to that style. Then you submit it. And once that manuscript is submitted, the normal process is that it will be received because all the manuscript submission systems are now online. I think you are familiar with that. There are a lot of online, all the publishers have online manuscript submission systems. So we will submit through that online system. As soon as you submit it, it will be received by the editorial office of that journal. And they will look at whether the formatting is correct and all, and they will also check out whether any plagiarism is there. So after all the checking, it will be sent to the editor-in-chief. And the editor-in-chief, depending on the topic, he will assign that paper to one of the associate editors. Who is in charge of dealing with that particular topic. And he will select a couple of reviewers who are experts in that field and send this document to them, and they will, those experts will review it, and finally they will take a decision and they will send a report. And after consolidating all the reports, the associate editor will take a decision. It can be either rejection or it can be a revision. It's very rare that a paper is accepted as such. It's very rare. Otherwise, you will get either major revision or you will get minor revision. And if it is a rejection, then again you have to redo the work. And if it is a revision, you have to again resubmit the document. That is very important aspect, because there may be sometimes 3 or 4 reviewers who might have reviewed your article. So in that case, you have to give response to each of the comments given by the reviewers. So during the resubmission, in addition to the documents you have submitted as part of the initial submission, you need to upload one important document that is known as the rebuttal letter, or we call it as the response to the reviewer's comments. And in that letter, you have to specify the revisions that you have made according to the comments raised by the reviewers. One by one, you have to mention what all changes you have made to the article. And after that, it will again send for the review. And again, you can either, it may be even after revision, it may be rejected or it may be accepted. And once it is accepted, it will be sent to the production unit for the publication. So this is the process of a normal manuscript submission system. I'm going to talk about this particular aspect. After acceptance, what happens? That is very important because all our discussions will be based on after publication, how we get the citations and all. So we are going to concentrate on this particular aspect now. And you know, early days, it was very difficult because once a paper is accepted, it has to wait in the queue for a long time to get it printed. Now you know that all the manuscripts are available, all the accepted manuscripts are available online. That means you can go to any of the repository or you can go to any of the websites and you can download it. Either you go to Science Direct, Springer Link, IEEE Explore, or whatever be the journal's repository site, you can go there and download it. So as soon as a paper is accepted, within 2 weeks, it will come online. That's the advantage of the current, or we can say that's the advantage due to the advancements in the field of IT. Because you can download this article as soon as it is accepted. But earlier days, it's not like that. The paper has to wait in the queue for a long time. Then only it will be printed and you can read that article. But now the situation has changed. But now the problem here is, you know that a journal which is published in any journal, an article which is published in any journal, it will be having certain details like the authors, the name of the authors, the title of the article, then the name of the journal. Then it should have important aspects like volume, issue, then page numbers, then year. All these details are very important if you want to put that article in the reference list, right? But look at this particular aspect. Once the paper is accepted, soon it comes as comes online in the respective websites. Now what happens, you know, the people all over the world will visit these sites and download this paper. But unfortunately, these papers have not been assigned to any volume or issue. But still, you will be forced to put this paper in the reference list, right? So, so how we can do that? Because we have the only information available is the name of the authors, the title, and the name of the journal. The rest of the information are not available because volume we don't know, number don't know, page numbers we don't know, and also the year of publication also may change. So in that such case, it's very important to use a particular ID which helps us to cite those articles properly so that the authors will never miss its citations. So that is very important. So whenever you put such papers in the reference list, make sure that you include this particular ID in the along with the reference. That ID is nothing but you might have heard about that is known as the digital object identifier. I don't know how many of you have seen this DOI. This DOI number is it's printed on the first page of most of the journal papers, and even if you look at the online version, and if you visit their site, you can see there along with the abstract, just below the abstract, you can see the DOI number written. It's nothing but it's a collection of numeric and alphanumeric characters, which is separated by a slash. So it has two parts, that is known as the prefix, and the other is known as the suffix. I hope in the screen itself you can see here. I hope you can see this DOI number. It starts with the 10. This is the prefix part I am talking about. Always it starts with 10 because the 10, as per the Uniform Resource Identifier standard, this 10 is actually the number which indicates a digital document. So that's why it starts with 10. So this 10 dot, then a 4-digit number which identifies the publisher, which is actually given by the International DOI Federation, and followed by, then you can see a separator symbol, a slash you can see, and then some alphanumeric characters. So this 10.1109 indicates a particular publisher. For example, if I remember, I think 10.1007 is actually a Springer journal, 10.1016 is Elsevier journal, like that it goes on. So this number starts with that 10 point followed by a 4-digit number, then slash, then alphanumeric characters. The suffix part is actually given by the publisher. According to the IDF standards. So altogether it forms a DOI number. So DOI number is from this point onwards, 10 point onwards, it's a DOI number. Now this forms a web link. Can you see this? https://doi.org/ then the DOI number. This forms a web link. So the advantage is that wherever you refer this particular paper, either you can give this DOI number like DOI:10.1109/ like that you can give, or if you want you can give that web link there. Both are possible. So whenever you refer papers which has not been assigned to any volume or issue, you can do this in the reference list, so that we can make sure that those authors will definitely get a citation if your paper gets published. That is the advantage. And another advantage is that this is like a metadata. That means sometimes, you know what happens, now this journal may be published by Springer. Maybe after 5 years, it may be published by Taylor and Francis. So what happens? The same paper which we were able to access from the Springer's website is now not there in that website. Now we have to go to the Taylor and Francis website to download that article because they have taken the charge of the journal. But if you have a DOI number, the advantage is that it's like an Aadhaar number given to you. Whether you change your address, your Aadhaar number will never change. Likewise, whether it is published by Springer now, it will assign the DOI number according to the Springer journal's standards or as per the IDF standards and the Springer journal standards. But if later, if Taylor and Francis controls that journal, still the DOI number will not be changed. So when you click that particular link like this, earlier it might have gone to the Springer's website, but now when you click it, it will go to the Taylor and Francis website. Because in one of my research papers, at the end, if you want, I can show that one of my research papers, it happened like that, because that journal initially published by Springer, but now it is published by Taylor and Francis. But if you look at the DOI, it is exactly the same as the Springer publication. But when you click it, it does not go to the Springer site; it will go to the Taylor and Francis website. That is the advantage here. So once this number is given, it is permanent; it will never change. So the point I would like to stress here is, whenever you refer an article which has not been assigned to any volume or issue, make sure that you give the DOI number along with that. That's the important point that I would like to mention. And even in your websites and all, in your homepage and all, instead of giving the direct link to the journal, you can give the DOI number link, so that anybody who visit here, it will automatically go to that website. Because I'm not bothered about whether the journal is the control of the journal is taken by Taylor and Francis from Springer or not. Because whoever who comes and visit my website, when they click it, maybe 1 year back, it might have gone to the Springer site. But now when somebody comes and click that link, it will go to the Taylor and Francis website. I'm not bothered about the change of repository site, because this particular DOI number points to a metadata where all this information are saved. So it will go to the correct site. So there is no need to change the link and all. Otherwise, we have to change the link, because they will never get your paper from your home page. That's the advantage. So here also you can see, if you simply give the DOI number here and press this button, it will directly go to that journal repository. Now this here you can see that I told you that DOI number will be printed on the front page. So this is an IEEE journal. You can see here, I marked here, this is actually a DOI number which starts with 10.1109. 1109 is for the IEEE publications. Now this is Elsevier journal. Here you can see it starts with 10.1016. So this is the DOI number of this particular article. And this is the Springer journal. There also you can see the DOI number starts with 10.1007. So this is the number I was talking about, which you have to refer in the reference list. Now, coming to the indexing, before I go to the indexing, let me tell you that we are all familiar with index, which you have seen, which you might have seen at the end of the textbooks. I think you know why we use that indexes, right? The reason is for the quick referring of certain topics, we use these indexes. You might have read that textbook 2 or 3 times, but if you want to find out a particular topic, what do? You will go to the index page and find out that particular term, and then you will look at the page number, and then you will come to that particular page and read that document and understand that particular term, and you will be happy. So why can't we use the same indexing concepts to the journal papers too? That means a person who is sitting different parts of the world, maybe sitting in a different part of the world, or maybe outside India, would like to search for a particular document which has been published in one of the Indian journals or maybe in one of the Indian conferences. So if that particular person wants to get the details, one important criteria is that that information should be indexed in some of the world's reputed sites. Otherwise, your document will not be seen by the people who are outside India, because I've seen several conferences, national seminars being organized by the different colleges. You know what happens there? At the end of the conference, they will release proceedings, and they will send some copies to the universities, and they will keep some copies in the library of the college. And nobody else will be able to see these particular proceedings because it's not indexed anywhere. A person sitting outside India, if they want to know if there is any specific topic being discussed during that conference, there is no way to find out that unless he get that physical copy of that proceedings. So in such cases, make sure that all these documents are properly indexed somewhere, so that the people who's in different parts of the world can come and search by using keywords and finally arrive at that particular article, which they can download and use it in their research work. So that's the reason why we say that indexing is very important. And it's based on this indexing, the quality of the journals and various other scientometric measures being computed. So the indexing is very important. And one such indexing site at the national level is the Indian Science Abstracts. Started in 1965, it is under the control of NISCARE, New Delhi, and it actually indexes most of the journals, conference proceedings, and thesis. So when I say it is Indian Science Abstracts, I don't know whether all the participants are from the science background. There may be people from other arts and humanities and social science background. Let me tell you that even though this indexing site is known as Indian Science Abstracts, it also indexes social science as well as arts and humanities journals too. So if you are talking about an indexing system at the national level, we only have this particular indexing site that is not, reputed indexing site that is known as the Indian Science Abstracts. Other citation indexes are also there. I think you might have seen that in Indian Citation Index, like that several indexing sites are there, but I don't know whether all those are really useful, but this one is the most popular one. That's known as the Indian Science Abstracts. So if you get time, I've given the web link there. Those who are interested, they can go there and see whether what all papers have been indexed in that indexing site. You can see that. So you just know about this Indian Science Abstracts. So this is how that website look like. So you can search for any of the documents which have been indexed in Indian Science Abstracts. Now coming to the international level, I should say the world's largest indexing site is the Corpus. I think this term also is very popular because now this word is there in most of the university regulations, PhD regulations, because the PhD candidates are supposed to publish papers in Corpus indexed journals. And even in the new UGC Carelist also, they have mentioned about this Corpus site. So I will show that site later. So this is about the largest indexing site. It indexes a lot of journals, international conferences, including the science journals, social science journals, arts and humanities journals. All these journals and conference proceedings are indexed here. Now, the important aspect here is that if you have published at least one paper or journal in Corpus indexed, which are Corpus indexed, definitely you will have a profile. We call it as a Corpus author profile. So if you have published at least one paper in a Corpus indexed conference proceedings or journal, you definitely will have a Corpus author profile. I don't know how many of you have seen their Corpus author profile, and those who have not yet published any papers, please wait. When you publish papers in Corpus index journals, definitely you can see this profile. And how to get that profile? It's very simple. I've given the link here. This is the link, the scopus.com/free-lookup/form/author.org. You can just Google it. There is no need to copy this link and all. You just Google it, Corpus author information. You will get this link. And there you will get a page like this, where you are supposed to give this author last name and author first name, and if possible, you can give your affiliation where you're working, or you can also give your Orchid ID, that I will tell later, Orchid ID. And once this is given, it will show a page like this. Now we can see that it shows all the records which matches with the last name and the first name. So here you can see Nair Madhu S, Nair Madhu K, Nair Madhu G. So here I can see that this Nair Madhu S belongs to me because the affiliation is very clearly given. It is Cochin University of Science and Technology. So I can see that, I can understand that this is my record, and also the number of documents I published also matches. So what I do is I will click this link. This is actually, when you go to the page, this will be a link actually. You can click it. This link, this is a particular, the name is a link, web link. You can click it and it will show a record like this. I've shown only the portion of the screen because if those are interested, they can go to that website, because only the relevant part I have just cropped. So I'm showing this. You can see here the name of the author. This is the Orchid ID which I have linked. I will tell you what is this Orchid ID. This is the documents published by me, and you can see here the citations. So this is one metric, I should say the researcher metric, how many citations you have got. Normally you have to give that during the time of accreditation process and all. So this is the citation based on the Elsevier supported or Elsevier owned Corpus indexing system. So how many citations I've received from those journals which are indexed in Corpus. There you can see that it is 579 by 500 documents, which means that 500 unique documents have cited my papers. And why it is 579? Because in one document there may be more than one citations to my paper. So that's why it's 579 by 500 documents. And another metric it shows is the H index. We'll discuss that later. That is the 14. This is how it shows the records. So the Corpus sometimes, you know, even for appointments in top institutes, national institutes and all, they ask for this particular information. We call it as the Corpus profile. And it is very important that you provide this link or this information to the appointing authorities, because they will just want to see how many documents and how many citations you have made and what is your current H index. So that's why they ask for this particular kind of information. So I think it's clear, right? This is how, and you will get this record only if you have published at least one paper in Corpus indexed journal or conference proceedings. So this is another important site or maybe a indexing system which you have to be familiar with. That is known as the Open Researcher and Contributor ID. It's known as Orchid. Before I explain what is the use of this Orchid, I will just go back to the previous site. If you look at here, here sometimes what happens, you know, some people might see two records belonging to the same person. This happened to me also when I was working with Rajgiri College. because in one particular paper, I put the affiliation as Rajagiri College of Social Science, and in another, in all other papers, I put it as Rajagiri College of Social Sciences. So there was a change in the small change in the affiliation, and also the topic which I have communicated, the topic on which the paper has been communicated was also different. Now, this is an automatic system. So what happens, this particular system treated that second, the paper which I've, where I've wrongly written the affiliation, it has been considered as a new author. And all other papers belong to a different author. But I know that these two records belong to me, or we can say belong to the same person. But it shows as two different records. So in such cases, what the citations that you received will be split among two records. So somebody who come and visit this site, they will see only your partial citations. The rest of the citations is in the other record. So now it is your responsibility to merge these records. For that, you have to send a mail, official mail to the Corpus authorities and convince them that these two records belong to the same person, and then they will combine it. That's what I have done at that time. But now that situation will never happen if you have an Orchid ID. As I said, DOI is for article, Orchid ID is for the researcher. It's like an Aadhaar number again. So it's a digital number. You can see here. You can see here in this figure I've given that this number. I think 16-digit number is actually the Orchid ID. This you can create very easily without any cost or without spending a single penny. You can register in the site. The advantage is that most of the standard journals, during the time of manuscript submission itself, they will ask your Orchid ID. In early case, after publication, your record will be indexed in Corpus, right? But here the situation is different. During the time of manuscript submission itself, your Orchid ID will be linked with your submission. The advantage is that after acceptance, because you can link the same Orchid ID with the Corpus also. So you have that connection between the Orchid ID and the Corpus. So as soon as your paper gets accepted and published online, this paper will be automatically indexed in the Corpus. When I say index means it will be indexed, it will be put in under the correct person. It will not be treated as a new author, or such incidents will never happen. So during the time of submission, always try to link your Orchid ID as part, which that option will be given by the manuscript submission system. Use it and link this Orchid ID. Now it's not mandatory because most of the journals just want to make it mandatory, but I think soon it will become mandatory and you will be forced to link this Orchid ID with the manuscript submission system. So it's better today itself you create a Orchid ID and use it for the manuscript submission system so that this duplication of records can be avoided. So that is the advantage of this Orchid. And I think there are other indexing sites too. I think I will just mention about name only because we have other important indexing sites to discuss. This one is known as EBSCO Publishing. It's a company from USA, and they mainly concentrate on not only on the science and technology. Their main indexing is on social science management and I should say arts and humanities journal. So among the social science people, this particular indexing site is very popular, EBSCO Publishing. Those who belong to the social science or arts and humanities group, then definitely you can note down this EBSCO Publishing or EBSCO indexing system. This is very important. And another indexing one is you might have heard about the ResearchGate. I hope some of you might be the members of this ResearchGate. I don't consider this ResearchGate as a very good indexing site and all. Why I've just included this because it's a platform for all the researchers to build a rapport with the peer group, I should say. Because through this system, it's not a fully social networking system because you can see that it's not like a normal social networking sites. You have a lot of academic details here, you have a lot of research details, which is not there in normal social networking sites. So here it's actually an indexing a platform for interacting with the research scientists all over the world. So, so in that sense, I should say it will be worth if you you become a member of this ResearchGate, so that you can go there and interact with the people who are doing research in that field, and sometimes it may also lead to collaborative research, joint research. I told at the beginning that in Kerala, our international collaborations are not very good. So I think through this system, all of you can establish rapport with the people all over the world, and you can have joint research proposals, because there are a lot of joint proposals being called by the Department of Science and Technology. So if you have very good rapport with these people, you can jointly submit research proposals. So in that sense, you can use this ResearchGate, and also some scores are given here. Actually, I've sent several mails to them to see what this 28.44 indicate, but unfortunately, I have not received any mail from them. I think they use a lot of parameters like citations, how many people are reading that, how many people have downloaded that article. I think it's actually a combination of all these factors which actually arrive at this. But I don't know whether this 28.44 is good or not. So what I normally do is, I know some good researchers in the field. So I will look at their ResearchGate and I will do a relative comparison. That only I can do. But I don't know how this, what is the significance of this 28.44. If somebody gets information, my email ID will be there, and then please forward to me so that I can also understand that. I think this one I'm skipping because due to lack of time, I don't want to mention, because there's another indexing site as well as a social networking site developed by the Tsinghua University from China. So those are interested, they can go to this RNet Miner site. And another two indexing sites that you are familiar with is the Google Scholar and Microsoft Academic Research. And these two are the giants in the field of IT. But from my personal opinion is that it's better you prefer Google Scholar, because it's very simple to use and it's very accurate, and also to share this information with other people, that is also very simple. So I think I personally prefer Google Scholar, but I don't force anybody to use Google Scholar. So that's why I've given the name of the other indexing site too. So those are interested, they can opt for Microsoft Academic Research too, but I prefer Google Scholar. And I will show that maybe at the end, I will show how this Google Scholar profile look like. So it's also an indexing site. And the advantage of Google Scholar is that I think most of the people like Google Scholar. The reason is it indexes most of the conferences and journals. So you know what happens, you will get a lot of citations there. So that's why people always like this Google Scholar. But these are not the standard indexing sites. Standard indexing site is different. I'm coming to that. But Google Scholar is also a very popular indexing site, but it also gives information about the advantage of using Google Scholar is that it gives access to the citation records free of cost. That's the advantage, because we can freely see who all have cited your research papers. I will show you how you can see that. Now coming to the important indexing site is that's known as a Science Citation Index. I hope you remember the word I have used. I used the word the largest citation index for Corpus. But here I'm going to use the word reputed indexing site in the world is nothing but the Science Citation Index. It's known as it's actually managed by Institute for Scientific Information, and now that earlier it was owned by Thomson Reuters, but now it is owned by Clarivate Analytics. And this link which I've given here, mjl.clarivate.com, I think this is one link which has been given in the UGC Carelist. I think you might have seen that one indexing site the UGC Carelist has mentioned is the Web of Science. So this Web of Science core collection can be accessed from this particular site, mjl.clarivate.com. I will show the interface here so that you can understand how we can search for that. So this is the world's reputed indexing site. And you know, most of the reputed institutes in the world, as well as the national institutes in India, institutes of national importance like IIT, NITs and all, they always look at the publications which are indexed in SCI journals and not in the Corpus. And I think I still remember in order to apply for a faculty post in IIT, I think you should have minimum 5 SCI index journals. I'm talking about those IITs, the old IITs, the 7 old IITs. It's very important that you should have minimum 5 SCI indexed journals. So that is the that's why I say it's a high quality indexing site. So whenever you want to publish papers, make sure that it is a science citation indexed. And this is how that website looked like. Because I don't know how many of you have visited the UGC Carelist website managed by Savitribai Phule University at Pune. So if you go there and when you click that link, it will come here. And here you can type the name of the journal, or you can give ISS number, whatever it be. So you can just type the name of the journal here, and you can click this button, search journals. Then it should show like this. So now, if it is shown like this, it means that the journal is indexed in Web of Science. So this is the site that where you can go and see whether your journal is indexed or not. But now, if you look at the name given here is like this: Web of Science core collection is nothing but the Science Citation Index expanded. This is actually another product of Clarivate Analytics. Earlier, when Thomson Reuters acquired this ISI, they used the Science Citation Index for those list of journals with the stringent constraints. But later they introduced a product known as the Science Citation Index expanded, and where they try to include more journals by diluting certain constraints. But still, it is very tough to get a journal indexed in SCIE. So this product is known as SCIE expanded, Science Citation Index expanded. And just below that, very important one, please note this particular point, because I have seen some people come and say that their journal is SCI index. But when I come and check it in this MJL, Master Journal List of Clarivate Analytics, I could get a detail like this. See this. It's not SCI. They will come and say that their journal is indexed in ESCI. It's not ESCI. ESCI means it's not SCI index. It's nothing but Emerging Sources Citation Index, which means that these journals are going to be indexed in SCI in future. Or we can say that these are the journals which has got the potential to be included in the SCI index or SCI index expanded. So if you see like this, Emerging Sources Citation Index, ESCI, it's not SCI indexed. It's actually another list which has been introduced very recently, where this Web of Science have included those journals which has got the potential to be included in the SCI index. So now they are under scrutiny, I should say. These journals are under scrutiny, and maybe within 1 or 2 years, these journals may get indexed in SCI. Right. I hope the difference is clear. So make sure that it is Science Citation Index expanded or Science Citation Index before you submit your article. Otherwise, even if you feel that the journal is published by a good publisher, even if it is ESCI, you can submit it, but it will become SCI only later. At that time, you cannot claim that your article is published in SCI index, but only after it's getting indexed, maybe after 1 or 2 years, you can claim that the journal is SCI indexed. This is the Carelist. I'm talking about UGC Carelist. So they have divided these journals into 2 groups. UGC Carelist Group 1, which is actually the list of journals which are scrutinized by a team, experts or maybe the senior professors from various universities, and they have created a list that is known as UGC Carelist Group 1. And UGC Carelist Group 2 is actually the journals which are indexed by the recognized databases like Web of Science, Corpus. These are the sites that are mentioned in that globally recognized databases. So if you look at the second part here, this is the UGC Carelist Group 2, and you can see 3 products being mentioned here. One is known as the Arts and Humanities Citation Index. Then second is the Science Citation Index expanded. Then third, because they merged, I think now they are not showing this Science Citation Index as a separate document. They are all put together under the Science Citation Index expanded. That's why they have included only that. Then SSCI, that is the Social Science Citation index. And the second category is the Corpus source list. So these are the two important indexing sites that has been mentioned by the University Grants Commission. So if you are publishing a paper in any of these indexes, then you can say that I mean, it's an approved journal by the UGC. Otherwise, it's not. And let me tell you that when you click these, go to the respective links, there may be written like this: emerging sources citation index. That doesn't mean that it's essay indexed, or because you can see that under Web of Science, only these three categories are mentioned: social science citation index, science citation index expanded, and arts and humanities citation index. They have not mentioned emerging sources citation index. So make sure that it comes under any one of these three categories. Otherwise, it will not be approved by the UGC. This is how you search that group 1, because which is actually selected by the experts from UGC. So, because in addition to these indexed websites, they have also prepared a list of other journals, 500 to 600 journals they have approved. So those lists, if you want, you can see that by using this particular interface. These are the products I was talking about: the Science Citation Index, Social Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities Citation Index. This one you cannot consider because this is actually an indexing. It tells that these journals has a potential to be included in one of these indexing sites. And another two products which are very important, I don't know how many of you are aware of that. The Clarivate Analytics also manages a list of conferences. We call it as the Conference Proceeding Citation Index for the Science and Conference Proceeding Citation Index for the Social Science and Humanities. These two products, they are also very important because they also indexes the conference proceedings too. And another important indexing site you might have heard about is the open access journals. Maybe some of you might have communicated or published article in open access journals. It's a very popular name in among the research community, open access. The advantage is that once you publish a paper in open access journals, anyone in the world can download that article free of cost. That is the advantage. They can download it free without spending any money. But sometimes what happens, in order to make your article open access, especially the conventional proprietary kind of journals where you transfer the copyright to the journals, that papers will be owned by those publishers. And in order to download that article, you have to pay them out. But those journals which actually ask for money for releasing the document, they give an option. Springer, Elsevier, IEEE, they all give an option to convert your article into an open access form. But the problem there is you have to pay a huge amount as compensation. I think one-time payment of maybe $1,500 will be asked to, you will be forced to pay to make it open access. The advantage is that once you pay that amount, in that article, this particular paper will be published as open access article. Then you may ask, what is the advantage of that? The advantage is that we know that the journal is very reputed. You know that the papers are being downloaded by a lot of people around the world. So if you make it open access, the number of papers downloaded from the journal will definitely be increased, especially your paper, because there's no need to pay any amount. Anybody in the world can download it. So definitely your paper the visibility of your paper will be more, and you may get more citations. I'm talking about reputed journals. The negative aspect of this is that there were, due to the, if you look at the pressure that we have in the academic system, that that for the promotion, for getting recognition and for getting respect among the peer group, we have to prove ourselves that we publish good papers. So all the people are trying to publish papers in international journals, but it's really tough to publish a paper in reputed journal unless that work is very good. It will never get published. So what they do is they find out some other journals where their paper can get through very easily, and they were trying to find out such journals, and some people found some good business there, business opportunity there. And a number of new publishers were involved as part of this, and they started publishing a lot of journals as open access journals, and they will charge a huge amount But now I think even for 5,000 and all you can publish papers, but those time they ask for a huge amount, and without any review or without any peer review, they will publish those papers as such in their journals. So this happened for a long time, and people realized that they have to take some action against this, because otherwise the quality of the research works will go down, because most people are trying to get the paper published as quickly as possible by communicating to such kind of journals. And later a study was conducted, and Jeffrey Beal, a renowned person, scientist, Jeffrey Beal from University of Colorado, he studied about these kinds of publishers, and he coined a name known as predatory journals. That means those journals which charge a lot for the papers, and at the same time they don't give any kind of review. They don't review the paper, and immediately they publish the papers without any review. So as far as the research scholars or the people who submit the manuscript are concerned, they are not getting anything back. They just pay the money and their article gets published. So they call those journals as predatory journals. And this, due to this problem, the open access, the reputation of the open access journals went down for some time. And later, DOAJ, Director of Open Access Journals, were forced to remove around 3,000 to 4,000 journals immediately from their list due to this particular problem. So you can just imagine the consequences of this particular problem. How much? See, this is sharing here. You can see here in the year 2016, DOAJ removed approximately 3,300 journals from the list. Because most of those journals were of predatory journals. When I say predatory, means it has got some characteristics. The websites will not be properly managed. There will not be any proper manuscript submission system. It will not be indexed anywhere. They will have to pay a huge amount. There will not be any peer review. So based on several factors, they understood that these journals are not following the standards, and they removed all these journals from their DOIJ list. And even the UGC Carelist also came because of this. I hope you remember that. You might have read in the newspapers that UGC has also removed a lot of journals from the approved list. So this is because of these kinds of journals. Right, so I'm skipping these slides because we are discussing only on indexing and scientometrics. I'm just skipping this. I just want to talk about this particular repository that you can use. This is known as eShotSindhu. This is actually a repository where you can download around a lot of journals. I mean, more than 10,000 journals you can download from this site, and a lot of ebooks are available. And I think around 217 universities are part of this, technical institutions. So it's a very good e-resource, actually, because now we are talking about the e-resources and all, where the students can download the article and read it, and download the textbooks and read it. So this is one such resource where you can download, I think. And aided colleges, I think, with a very small amount, I think already your college will be having access to this. But for the self-financing colleges, they have to pay a little more amount. But it is worth to be a member of this consortium. But this NList was another one. NList is another repository, but it has been merged with eShotSindhu. So if you become a member of eShotSindhu, you can also access documents from the NList, National Library and Information Services Infrastructure for Scholarly Content. So this is the NList website. And since I mentioned about DOIJ, I included this. This is actually a website which actually searches for papers published in Directory of Open Access Journals. So Nimbus is actually a website through which you can access any of the papers which are published in Open Access Journals. So if you become a member of this particular nimbus.com site, I think University of Kerala, KSAT are all members of this Nimbus. So we can just log in and download papers which are published in Open Access Journals. So the advantage is that we can sit at home, just log in there and download the papers. That's the advantage of this nimbus.com. This is the website where you can sign in and you can access the Nimbus. I think this you are all familiar with. This is also an indexing site. This is known as the Shodhganga, where all the Indian theses have been uploaded, PhD theses have been uploaded. And now in 2020, it crossed 260,000 theses. So this is the current statistics of the Shotganga thesis. And I think among these, University of Calcutta and Madras have uploaded the highest number of theses. And as per the new regulation, 2016 UGC regulations for related to the PhD, I think you might have read that regulation. It's very clearly written that only after uploading the soft copy of the thesis in this website, the provisional certificate has to be issued to the students, which means that before issuing this provisional degree certificate to the candidate, the authorities have to make sure that this the digital copy of the thesis have already been uploaded in the Shotganga site. Otherwise, they will not issue the. But I don't know how many universities are following that particular regulation. But this is the actual regulation given in the UGC regulation for minimum standards and procedures for the PhD program regulation 2016. So you have to make sure that your candidate, those who are guides, make sure that the students who are working under your supervision after completing the thesis, make sure that his or her thesis has been uploaded in the Shotganga website. So after this topic, I think it's very clear. Now we have 2 sessions left. One is on the plagiarism, but that I can skip. We can directly go to the Scientometrics, or I can also talk something about the plagiarism also, if you are interested. So I think I will just stop for 5 minutes, and if you have any questions, you can ask now. Dr. Jayashree, if you can coordinate, I can. Ratika, you can ask if any participants have any questions. I will respond.
Thank you, sir. That was indeed an informative session. And I'm sure that every participant gained immensely from this session. Now the session is open for discussions, and may I invite Dr. Ajesh, Dr. Jayashree, and Dr. Meera to make arrangements to present the questions from participants.
The next section is on Scientometrics, so it's better we clarify the doubts here first and then move on to the next section.
Okay, sir. Dr. Venkatesh asked about the difference between citation index and impact factor.
That we are going to discuss now. In the next section, we are going to talk about impact factor. Citation index is actually, I already told you, because for each paper, we can find out how many citations we have already received. So there are a lot of sites. One site I already shown, that is the Corpus site, where I can see how many citations we have received. So if you look at this particular page, which I have shown here, if you look at this particular page, you can see that this is the citation, total citation I have received. But in some cases, when during the time of accreditation and all, we need to provide the citation index of each paper, each document. So for that, we need to have access to this corpus, right? So most of the universities have access to this particular site. So there, just below this, so I told you now, I have cropped this page, the screen. So I've shown only the relevant part. Just below this, you can see all the documents which you have published, and along with that, you can also see the citation details there. For each paper, how many citations you have received and who all have cited. All these details you can access from this site. So this will be given here. And that is not the number which shows how many people or how many documents have referred this particular article. That is actually the citation index, and some impact factor is something different that we'll discuss in the next section. I'll explain that.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Next, Sweetlin Sushilabai raised a query about that she had published. Her name is in the Scopus author profile, but she couldn't able to see how many papers were published in that.
I told you because it's very easy, because there is no need to even pay any money for getting these details. I've just shown here, like she has to come to this particular page. This is the page I was talking about. Just give the last name and first name, and also if she wants, she can give the affiliation. And when they press this button, definitely if she has published papers in Corpus indexed journals or conference proceedings, definitely they will show the records like this. So that from this list she can select it. And if it is not shown there, one possibility is that those journals might not have been indexed in Corpus, or otherwise then it may be some kind of technical problem that you have to inform the Corpus authorities that you can, proof you can give, because I have published these papers in Corpus Index Journal, but it's not showing in the profile that you can give. So they will quickly respond, very quickly respond.
And Mr. Pranavan asked about how to publish the papers in proceedings and make it indexed.
The question is not clear. I think they want to publish it in, they want to get their conference proceedings indexed.
They want to make an conference proceedings in a published mode, and they want to have an index for that.
So see, this one is a little bit difficult because the first step that they have to do is to get an ISBN number for the proceedings. That is the first thing. So if they are going to release a conference proceedings, they have to apply for this ISBN to the Rajaram Mohan Roy National Agency for ISBN in Delhi. They have to get that ISBN number, and after that you have to contact the Elsevier Corpus authorities or Indian Science Abstracts authorities for getting indexed in there. So for that you have to online, you have to apply for that. For ISBN number, they have an online website through which you can submit the application. And for getting indexed in Indian Science Abstracts or Corpus or SCI and all, it's really tough. You have to apply for it. But from my experience, I'm telling, because only after a series of conferences being organized, I should say maybe every year, if you are organizing the conferences, maybe after 5 or 6 years, if you feel that you are just publishing quality research papers in that conference proceedings, then definitely you can apply for getting the conference being indexed in top indexing sites like CP, the conference proceedings indexing sites, which I have just mentioned earlier. So for that, you need to apply for that, yes. But it's really tough to get it. This is the one I'm talking about, CPCIS, Conference Proceeding Citation Index. And let me tell you that very few conferences in India, I think the conferences being organized by IIT, Indian Statistical Institute, Calcutta, NITs, and some top universities have been indexed in this Conference Proceeding Citation Index. And let me tell you that those conferences were not indexed at the start of that conference, they were indexed later. So don't bother about indexing now, but you have to take steps for that. So from the first conference onwards, you have to make sure that you publish only quality papers in that. And then only maybe after a few years, after a few series of conferences, you can apply for the indexing in top sites like Corpus and Science Citation Index. Because our Cochin University is organizing one conference under the flagship of IEEE, that is known as IEEE Conference, International Conference of Data Science and Engineering. And this year we are going to organize that in the month of December, and it's already indexed in Corpus and IEEE Explore. So it's already indexed. So it took some time. That's it.
Sir, I have a question. Can I ask you? Am I audible? Yeah. Sir, in your presentation, you mentioned that this Google Scholar citation is very popular and also it's of free cost. So nowadays in our accreditation procedure, NAC doesn't count Google Scholar citation. So can you please comment on that?
Yeah, I told you that Google Scholar is a very easy to use, very accurate indexing site. But when I say accurate means it indexes almost all the conferences and journals, right? They are not looking at the standard of the journal most of the time. Because compared to the Corpus and SCI. So the accreditation team knows well about it. They know well that because whatever citations that you are quoting, it's maybe not from top journals. it may be from some ordinary journals. So that's why they say that we accept only the Scopus or Web of Science citation. I will show you the difference in the values at the end.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Have you noted my citations in the Scopus? That is all around 500 something, right? I think Mira might have noted that. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
but
Yes, sir.
that value will be different in the other two records that I'm going to show. Then you will identify
Okay.
that.
Okay, okay. Sir, another question from audience. Can you tell how can we calculate the H index?
Pardon?
It's a question from Vidya.
Yeah, tell me.
How can we calculate the H index?
I'm coming to that in the next session. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay.
With examples, we will see how we can find out that. So any clarity regarding any clarifications regarding the indexing part that you can ask now? All the scientometrics we are going to discuss in the next session.
Sir, kindly share some tips on creating good research profile.
That I think I have to talk a lot for that. I think I don't have enough time for that, but still, from my experience, I will tell that whenever you do research activities, you should always refer papers from the top journals, because most of the students do this mistake. Because now through the advancements of IT, you can see that whatever things that you search, immediately it is available in the Google. But you should never rely on those documents. You should always read standard research papers and technical reports of the top universities, because that will help us to understand how to write a good research paper. Because let me tell you that if I go back to 2004 or maybe 2008 and all, at the time I've published very few papers. But now if I look at those papers, I will become sad, because I myself, I will say how poor I wrote those papers. But now I have experienced in that, because by reading or by publishing in standard research journals, I realized that the earlier method that I've adopted, which I've adopted, that is simply putting whatever results that I've got, or without making any analysis and all, if I communicate papers, it will definitely be rejected from the top journals. So if you want to really publish a good paper in a reputed international journals, you have to go through the standard journals first. Read those papers first, so that you will get an idea. That doesn't mean that you should copy the style of those papers. Especially the associate editors and the editor-in-chief hate that. If you simply copy the style and format of other people, they will definitely reject those papers. So, but still you can understand how to present a topic, how to do the analysis, and how to represent all those. I should say any method should have a very good evaluation and experimental analysis. So that has to be properly done. That has to be properly written. And language is very important. At that time, I was not giving much importance to the language. I was giving more importance to the methodology and the concept. But let me tell you that if you want to communicate to the top journals, the language is also very important. So that's few tips that I would like to share.
So another question from Dr. Shailaja Pudya. She's asking something about plagiarism. Can you suggest a few measures in order to avoid plagiarism?
See, that's what I said, because two sessions are left. One is on plagiarism. I can talk more about that. Other is on scientometrics. So if you give time, I can just simply touch on plagiarism so that I can answer the question of that particular participant. But otherwise, I will go directly to the scientometrics. That I leave to the moderator. If you want to speak on plagiarism, I will speak.
Okay.
Yeah. The slides, it's already there in the slides. If you want, I can just present that maybe very quickly. I will not take much time. Very quickly, I can present it.
Yes, sir.
So any more questions, or shall I move?
If there is no questions, we can move on to the second session.
Okay, thank you, Radhika. So since one participant asked about the plagiarism, I will just quickly go through the plagiarism concept. And I think there is no need to go through the definition. You all know what is actually meant by plagiarism. It's a definition by the University of Oxford. That means whenever we want to, whenever we copy someone else's work or ideas and represent it as your own, we say that it's a kind of plagiarism. And even self-plagiarism is also there. Even self-plagiarism, if you look at, even sometimes you might have published one paper in one journal, and maybe later you may copy those contents from the same journal and present it as a new paper. That is also plagiarism. Self-plagiarism is also, as far as the definition is concerned, that should also come under the plagiarism definition. So don't think that self-plagiarism is not an act of plagiarism. It's also an act of plagiarism. Even whether you copy it from your own paper or whether you copy from others' paper, it's an offense or it's an unethical practice, right? So we'll see some aspects of this. This is what it says: to steal and pass off one's own ideas, your own, and then without crediting the source, literary theft, all that comes under the plagiarism. So I will just say this. This is one finding because I want to answer to that particular question. This is one paper which is published in PLOS One. This is a reputed journal. I've just highlighted one sentence here. I think all of you can read that. The major findings of this particular research, it's actually a comparison of German and Slovenian students, so leave it. But this particular point is very relevant all over the world. The major finding of this research revealed that easy access to information and communication technologies and the web is the main reason driving plagiarism. I hope you agree that. Because whenever you write research papers, especially in the introduction section, in the literature survey and all, we are not ready to spend time on writing those things in our own words. The problem is we just somehow want, because the methodology part, I am sure that you will be writing your own. And the result and analysis section also you cannot copy because you have to show your results which you have got. But the introduction and the literature part, you have to very carefully written, the abstract also, and the conclusion. These are all important parts of a manuscript. So in those sections, I've seen a lot of people simply copying the content from other papers for saving time. And even some people do some kind of paraphrasing also to cheat these plagiarism softwares. But again, what happens, you know, there will not be any flow for the article. If you do it simply without any, without carefully, if you're doing that paraphrasing, what happens, you know, when you read that paragraph, because being a reviewer for several journals, I can say that when you read that document, you will not get that flow. So from that, it's very clear that this may be copied from some other papers. So that will lead to that rejection of that paper. So what I say is that when you write the introductory section and the literature survey and all, try to write in your own words. You can refer any number of papers. Yeah, you can put it in the reference list. There is no problem in that. But make sure that those things have been written in your own words. Why I'm telling this? Because sometimes, you know, the introduction and literature survey and all, if you look at the language, that will be very good. Because it might be copied from some other paper. So the language will be very good. But when we come to the methodology part and the result analysis part, the language will be very poor. So we are very much sure that those part has been written by the authors and the other part it has been copied. So you have to be very careful when you do this kind of copying. And let me tell you that very sophisticated softwares are being used by the publishers, where they can very quickly catch all these copied content. And another important aspect I would like to mention is that some people say that, okay, I have paraphrased all the documents, so now the article has been written in a perfect form. Even if you use any of the software, it will show only less than 10% of similarity. And sometimes you will publish it. Sometimes you may even, I mean, the authors, sorry, the reviewers may also miss this point, and based on your work, it will be published. But the problem there is, recently one incident happened in our university. After 2 years, because that paper was published, after publishing that paper, and after 2 years, I think the paper was retracted. The reason was the original authors of that paper, they registered a complaint saying that most of the ideas mentioned in that paper was actually developed by them, and they even sent a copy of that original article to them. But if you look at sentence by sentence comparison and all, it is not same. Even if you use any of the plagiarism software also, it will show maybe below 15 or 10%, but the idea is exactly the same. And they send that paper to the experts, both the papers, the original and the one which has been published before 2 years. And the experts went through that one, and finally they took the decision that this paper has to be retracted. So this act of plagiarism can be caught at any point of time. It does not mean that you can simply cheat the software now and you will not be caught by the authorities, but it may happen at any time. So I just wanted to quote this. And now the problem here is these retracted papers will be published in that website forever. So your name will be there in that site, and it will be very clearly written that your paper has been retracted due to this plagiarism issue. I will just show one slide which shows that if I get time. Okay, I think this one I can skip. This is how it looked like. Can you see this? It shows that 127 papers from India has been retracted for certain data manipulation. So this retraction may not be due to the plagiarism alone. It can also be retracted due to the manipulation of the data. Sometimes they may give wrong data, or sometimes they do the manipulation in the image saying that this is the result that I've got, but actually it has been edited by using any of the tools, and they will say that they got like this. So the image manipulation or data manipulation is also happening in the field. So this has been retracted due to that. So what I'm telling is, once this paper is retracted, it will be published in their website, and your name will also be shown there. So anybody who comes and visit the site, they can see your paper which has been retracted due to plagiarism. So make sure that before communicating any research papers, you just use any of the tool and check the plagiarized content, how much it is there. Maybe below 10% is fine. Certain journals accept up to 15 to 20%. So depending on the journal policy, you can do that. And later, you can and make sure that methodology is also novel. It has not been published anywhere in the world. Then definitely these problems will never occur. So this is how it looks like. See this. This is actually a retracted paper published in Renewable and Sustainable Energy Reviews by Elsevier. And you can see that the name of the authors is given, and see the content. This article has been retracted. And sometimes it will write like this: this article has been retracted due to the plagiarism. And this article has been retracted at the request of the editor. See this, the author have plagiarized part of a paper that already appeared in the Journal of Building Performance Simulation. See this. And this page will be there forever, which means that the offense that you have done is there. Anybody can come and see this at any time. So don't do any such kind of unethical practices, then definitely will be caught in future, and you may face the consequences like this. So it's better you avoid copying the content from others' work, and also make sure that the methodology and the results that you present are all novel and accurate, and you are not manipulating any of the data and all. Then when I say you should take care of that, you should take care of the works presented by your students too. When you become a guide, you have to be very careful. When we do the work, we know that it's genuine. But when somebody else come and claim that, sir, we have got these results, you have to make sure that those results are genuine, and then only you should allow that candidate to communicate that paper. Otherwise, both the student and the supervisor will have to face this consequence. So make sure that this never happens to you. And there are several types of plagiarism, sir. I'm skipping this. I think I've answered to that question. And this is about self-plagiarism. Self-plagiarism refers to the practice of presenting one's own previously published work as though it were new. This also happened in several universities, because some papers were rejected and some papers were retracted due to the self-plagiarism. That is also a very important issue, because some people feel that because those papers were published by us, then why can't we copy the content from that? It's not like that. Once you transfer the copyright to the publishers, it's their asset. So if you want to copy the content from that, you have to put the reference. And sometimes if you want to copy an image, or if you want to copy some important content from that, you have to get permission from them. So that is very important. You have to give the courtesy of the image there in the article. So that is very important. So self-plagiarism is also a major act of plagiarism. So these are the problems that you may face. Researchers will never think creatively. Originality will be lost. Quality in research will be lost. Nothing new will be explored if you go for this plagiarism. And very important point is this one: the trust in the author will be lost, because all these manuscript submission system archives all these papers, all the decisions made by them is archived. So the editor-in-chief and associate editor can always see the track record of these authors. So even if you are sending a genuine paper, your paper may be rejected. That's the problem. So make sure that you don't do the act of plagiarism as part of your research. One important document I will just show. I don't know how many of you have seen that. This is actually a document prepared by IEEE, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE. IEEE is a publisher, and they actually maintain a list known as prohibited authors list. See this, prohibited authors list database. So this authors list database is shared to all the journals, all the journal editorial office published by IEEE. So all the editor-in-chief of the journals published by IEEE have this list. So if somebody who belongs to this particular list sends a paper to any of the journals published by IEEE, their paper will be immediately rejected. So I told you, once you submit a paper, the editorial office will look at the format and all other, they will check the format of the paper, they will check whether any plagiarized content is there, and they will also check whether these authors are there in the prohibited authors list. If any one of the co-author is there in the prohibited authors list, their paper will be immediately rejected. And the same list is being shared to all the conference organizers whose proceedings will be published by IEEE. They will send this list to all the conference publication chair, and they will ask the publication chair to go through the list and see whether any of the authors belonging to the list have submitted a paper. If they have submitted, then immediately that paper has to be rejected. And the document will look like this. See this. You can see here, see this particular author has been prohibited from submitting papers for around 3 years. From 2018 to 2021, she can't submit any paper to IEEE journals or conference proceedings, maybe due to the act of this plagiarism. So he has been prohibited from submitting the papers to the IEEE journals. So such lists are being managed by them. So I think no one from Kerala is there in this list. So I'm extremely happy. But a lot of people from different parts of our country are there in this list. So I just wanted to show the format. This is how they maintain the list. And this, you might have heard about the renowned scientist, the Bharat Ratna winner, C.N.R. Rao, who got the Bharat Ratna along with Sachin Tendulkar. I think you might have read that in the newspaper. So C.N.R. Rao has written an apology letter to a journal for the plagiarism. That was only a small paragraph which his student has copied, and that has been found out by the journal editorial office, and that has been communicated to the student, and the supervisor is the C.N.R. Rao. But when he received this mail, it's a very small paragraph, but they said they will publish the article, there is no issue in that. But still he said no, he will write an apology letter, and he wrote an apology letter to the editorial office, and that has been published here. So it will be there forever. So you can see this side, the corresponding authors regret the reproduction of text from an article that appeared in Applied Physics letters in their paper. And see C.N.R. Rao, the Bharat Ratna winner of our country. So these are the softwares that you can use for checking, but I will not, this is only the list, but I will say that these are the two standard plagiarism checking softwares, Identicate and Turnitin. The rest I'm not using that. Some are free and some are licensed and we have to pay money, but some Viper and all, they are all free. But the problem is we are not sure whether these plagiarism checking softwares have access to all the repositories in the world. That's what happens in Orchid also, because you might have heard about Orchid, which is being given by the UGC to all the universities. And in all the universities now, they use this software for checking the plagiarism, right? But now in Kannur University, an incident happened where an MPhil dissertation has been submitted to the university, and when they used this Orchid software, it showed only 7% of similarity. So they accepted the thesis. But some students have complained, registered a complaint there, and finally, when they tested with this identikit and Turnitin, they found out around 60 to 65% of similarity. So there is a huge difference. I think the main reason may be the Orchid may not be covering all the repositories. And even for me also, one incident happened. One of my students used this Orchid software to check the similarity content, and showed around 12% or 11%. But when we communicated to the journal, they used this Turnitin or Identikit software, and they replied that, okay, your article has around more than 20% of similarity in this article, because I thought in the other one it's only 7, but there they use this standard software and they found out more similarity. So from that point onwards, I'm not using this Orchid. I'm using only the Identikit and Turnitin. And I think in Cochin University also, they are planning to buy these two softwares immediately. Kannur has already given the orders, I think. So, but it's very costly. But I think in most of the universities still they use Orchid. But if you have any friends working in national institutes or other universities where they use this Turnitin, try to get a similarity report by using this Identikit or Turnitin if possible. Otherwise, such problems you may also face. This is the predatory journals. I think I already mentioned that that do not take advantage of the authors by asking them to publish for a fee without providing any peer review or editing services. That's actually the predatory journals. And this is the person I was talking about, Jeffrey Beal. He started writing a blog on this predatory publishers, but now he stopped writing the blog. I think he's getting a lot of threats from international publishers and all. So he stopped writing the blog and it's not active now. But that list is being uploaded by some other person. I don't know who have uploaded that, but that person has very clearly mentioned that he's not Jeffrey Beal. So I think somebody else might have uploaded this data in the website. So we have the list of publishers, we have list of standalone journals, hijack journals, misleading metrics, vanity press journals. There are several categories of predatory journal publications are listed here. First one is the publishers. The second one is the standalone journal. Standalone journal means they don't have any specific publisher name. The journal name itself is the publisher name. Vanity press means when you look at that particular publication, you may feel that it's genuine, but actually it is not genuine. So such things, they call it as vanity press. And they have listed such kind of publishers also. Then hijacked journals. Hijacked journals means the name of the journal will be exactly the same as the original reputed journal, so that people will be in confusion. So sometimes you may wrongly submit the article to this fake journal or hijacked journal, but actual journal will be different. So the name will almost look like the same. And such journals are actually, they call it as hijacked. But in the list, if you look at, most of the websites are now inactive because since it is already included in the list, they have stopped functioning. That may be the reason. Most of the journals, if you click it, you are not getting it. So they might have stopped it due to this reason. Then misleading metrics, that is very important. I've seen some people come and say that, sir, I have published a paper with impact factor 7.0. So I think, oh, it's really wonderful. So I will congratulate them. Then I will ask, in which volume you have submitted it? Your paper has been published. It is volume 1, which means that it started only 1 year back. And how this journal is getting 7.0 impact factor, I don't know. So they have just seen that these publishers, they will put in the home page that they have got a journal impact index, index Copernicus value, like there's some names, similar names they use, and impact index value 7.0. And they will feel that this is actually the impact factor. And they will come and claim that we have published a paper in international journal with 7 as the impact factor. So such misleading metrics has also been listed in this site. So that is also, you can see here. So this is how they listed that. These are all the publishers. See this, these are the publishers which actually do this unethical practices. This is the original list of predatory publishers, predatory standalone journals, vanity press, hijacked journals, All these lists are available. Misleading metrics, see this. Site factor, Arab impact factor, AE global index. These are all misleading metrics. These are not the standard metrics. The only accepted metric is one is the JCR and the other is the Corpus score, site score. All other metrics we cannot accept because it's not supported by any of the standard indexing sites. So don't look at these values and jump into the conclusion that this is a highly reputed journal. So that's why I've already explained about the indexing sites already. And the genuine impact factors, I will just show you. So this is what I'm taking. See this. He has written that I'm not Jeffrey Beal. So I think somebody else might have uploaded all this data, which was originally there in that list. Okay. Because I told you he stopped writing the blog. And this is the article he has published in a journal named Biochemia Medica, where he has explained all the problems that he faced when he started writing that blog. So all the details are there in this journal. When you get time, you can read this. What I learned from predatory publishers. You can just note down that, Jeffrey Beal. And the title of the paper is What I Learned from Predatory Publishers. So all the problems that we have faced is well written in this article. Okay, I think anything else? This is the regulation I was talking about, new regulation on this plagiarism is being released. That is known as the 2018 regulation on plagiarism. So when you get time, you please go through this document. This is the UGC regulation 2018 on plagiarism, where they have very clearly written about the different levels of plagiarism. See this, level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. So up to 10% each, it's okay, no penalty will be there. In all other cases, there are small penalties. Sometimes you have to rework on the thesis and submit it again. And sometimes even the cancellation of the PhD registration may happen if you repeat this offense again. And for the teachers, for the guide supervisors, I think sometimes you may be debarred from guiding for 3 years, like that. All the penalties have been very clearly mentioned in this. So just go through this document when you get time. So already the UGC have released this document. See, these documents are not actually meant for those people who genuinely do the research work. For them, even if you don't read this, it's not a problem. But the people who are planning to use, planning to plagiarize the content, they should definitely go through this document, because there are certain clauses which are very severe. So you have to go through that. Otherwise, there is no problem at all, because you know that your method is novel. You have not plagiarized any content. So even if you don't read this document, there is no problem at all. So you have to convince us, you have to make aware that I mean, for the students also, you have to make them aware that these consequences are there. So that they will write the correct, they do the research in the right way. They don't follow any kind of unethical practices. See this, see similarities above 60%. The supervisor will not be allowed to guide any master's or MPhil or PhD for a period of 3 years. So the supervisor may be debarred from guiding. But these are the regulations given, these are the clauses given in the 2018 regulations, but I don't know how many universities are strictly following these regulations, that I don't know. So if there is any questions regarding plagiarism, you can ask, so that we can go to the metrics, SCIENTOMETRICS.
Thank you so much, sir. Both parts of your presentation were highly informative as far as the research is concerned.
I hope I'm not boring you.
No, sir, no, sir. It was really interesting, and I'm sure that this will certainly add flavor and improve the quality of our publication in future.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So
now the session is again open for discussion.
So that lady, that teacher who have asked the question, I hope I have answered that. So.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, now the forum is open for discussion, and I will call it out some of the attendees, and they can speak now and raise their queries. Bhaskar Rama Kumar Palakula. You can now speak, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
Bhaskar Rama. Okay. Sri Jnanamurthy. Hello. Satish Prasad. Hello.
All be aware of what is copyright, because in every history and all academicians, I'm sure the people different the creation of article writing, read this. And we have a copyright in the works.
I think it's not clear. It's not audible.
It's not clear, sir. Sir, can you adjust the volume and speak once again? Some background noise is also coming.
You can hear only the noise actually.
Yes, yes. Mr. Ramdas. Hello, Mr. Ramdas. Can you hear me? Mr. Sajikumar JS, you can now speak. Miss Hina Kausar. Hello. Miss Hina Hauser. Mr. Abhilash. Mr. Abhilash, are you here? Mr. Abhilash. Dr. V. Gauri Shankar Rao. Dr. Gauri Shankar Rao.
Hello. Oh, sir, good evening, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, it is audible?
Yeah, audible. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, a small question, sir.
Yeah.
Once we can use the free plagiarism, sir, it shows 20%.
Yeah.
So then correct, after that again we will run that same plagiarism. It shows what I corrected, that shows it is the original. The before one is the duplicate.
And which
so
one?
what can I do?
Which one? In
so
Orchid?
in website they have shown that many plagiarism free trials is there, no sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Plagiarism
No, which plagiarism software you have used?
So that one is a plagiarism checker, sir.
Plagiarism checker you have used, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That
so,
I already told at the beginning that, sir, it's better.
Sir.
You use only the standard plagiarism checking softwares like Turnitin or Identicate.
Sir, it is a free version. It is available, sir. Those are you told the 6 or 7.
It's not free. It's actually costly. But for educational institutions, they give it at a reduced rate. But it's better you try to access that through any of the nearby universities or nearby national institutes, which I do, like, because in our university still I don't have access to Identicate or Turnitin. So what I do is I have a student at PhD student at National Institute of Technology, NIT Calicut. So I asked my student to check, to go through this content and upload it in the Turnitin or Identicate tool and get the report. So it's really tough, but we can actually rely only on that standard softwares. From my experience, I'm telling, because whatever the checkers that you use, like Viper or Plagiarism Checker or Orchid or any tool, the reason is we are not sure whether it covers all the repositories in the world. Because if you want to get a good plagiarism report, they have to cover all the standard repositories, right? But if they cover only the partial content, then definitely you will not get the correct report. That's the reason why all the standard publishers in the world, international publishers in the world, they use only these two softwares. They don't use any of the other plagiarism checking softwares. They use only the Turnitin and Identicate.
Okay, thank you so much.
Next, Mr. Ravikant Dubey. Mr. Ravikant Dubey. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah,
Please ask your question.
Yes, sir. Sir, I had a question that, as you said in the previous presentation, about publishing any paper in Scopus journal.
Yeah.
So I had the question: if I publish one paper in Scopus and later on, say, if I couldn't publish paper in Scopus, so do the list will show all my publication on Scopus list?
Only
Sorry,
those papers. Suppose you have published 10 papers, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And out of that, 5 is indexed in Scopus. Okay. Only those 5 will be shown in that list.
Okay. Scopus profile will show only 5.
Only 5. Only 5.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Ramaswamy. Mr. Ramaswamy, can you hear me? Okay, sir, we can.
So, okay, shall we move to the next one?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So now we are coming to the second part, and after that we'll finish it off. So this is the important part of this webinar, that is the Scientometrics. So Scientometrics is nothing but it's a branch of bibliometrics, which actually talks about the research productivity of an individual researcher, or maybe it's a metric that shows the reputation of the journal. So that branch is actually known as the Scientometrics. So there are 2 types of Scientometrics are there. One is known as the author level metrics, and the other is known as the journal level metrics. So author level metrics will give you an indication about the research productivity of that individual, and journal level metric will show the quality of that particular journal. So the most widely used metric, journal level metric for assessing the quality of a journal is the journal impact factor. So now I've given in the slide, I've given, I've taken an arbitrary year, 2008 I will take. So how you'll compute an impact factor of a journal, 2008 impact factor of a journal, that is very clearly given there. It's a simple ratio. If you look at the ratio is very simple, A by B. But what does this A and B indicates? That is more important. And what does this A indicate? It is the number of times the articles published in 2006 and 7 were cited by, that word is very important, indexed journals. That's why we have discussed about the indexing sites up to this time. Cited by indexed journals during the year 2008. That's the numerator part of this ratio. And actually I've taken 6 and 7 complete years. Actually it's not like that, it's from June to June. But for the simplicity, we'll take the complete year so that the discussion, it will be, during the discussion, it will be very easy. Actually, it is from June to June. You know that in the month of June, July, the new impact factors are being released by the Clarivate Analytics. And the only accepted, worldwide accepted document on this journal impact factor is known as a Journal Citation Report, JCR, which is issued by the Clarivate Analytics. So this impact factor value, I told you, there are a lot of misleading matrices. You should not rely on that. The only standard metric that has been accepted worldwide is the Journal Citation Report released by the Clarivate Analytics. Earlier it was Thomson Reuters, now it is Clarivate Analytics. Now if you look at the numerator part, coming back to the equation, A indicates the number of times the articles published in 2006 and 7 were cited by indexed journals during the year 2008, which means that the impact factor itself may be released by different indexing sites. For example, JCR, Journal Citation Report, is based on the Web of Science indexing, whereas the CiteScore and SJR, SNIP, such matrices are being released by the Elsevier, supported by Scopus database, right? So depending on the indexing sites, these values may change, and the impact factor will also change. But the most widely used, because I told you the reputed indexing site is SCI. So Web of Science is a product related to the SCI. So the JCR is the world reputed document on this impact factor. So coming back to the equation, so the numerator indicates how many times, number of times the articles published in 6 and 7 were cited by indexed journals during 2008. So you look at the 2 years, 6 and 7. We call that 2 years as the target period. So for calculating the impact factor, we have two periods. One is known as the target period and the other is known as the census period. The target period is nothing but 6 and 7. Why we do this? Because once a paper is published, we have to give some time for that paper to get the citations, right? So that's why we take the papers from 6 and 7. So that is known as the 2-year impact factor. So if you simply write impact factor, it means 2-year impact factor because the target period is 2 years, 6 and 7. So if we are talking about 2020 impact factor, then the target period will be 2018 and 19, like that. But actually, we say that in 2020 June, it is not the 2020 impact factor is being released, it is actually 2019 impact factor being released. But the document is coming in JCR 2020. I hope the difference is clear. So the impact factor will be 2019 impact factor, which is being published in 2020 JCR, Journal Citation Report. But for simplicity, we will consider, because to understand the equation, we are just arbitrarily taking these years, that's it. So it means that the target period is 2 years. All the papers published during that period will be taken into consideration. And then we will look at how many citations these papers have received during 2008. Census is like that, right? When we do the census, we collect the statistics. Same the same way in 2018, that is 2008, that is the census period. During that period, we will see the papers published in 6 and 7. How many times it has been cited during 2008 by the indexed journals. That will be written in the numerator part. What is the denominator part? The total number of items published in 6 and 7. And the word is very important, citable items. Citable items means only the research scholars, research papers, editorials, only those things can be cited. There are other contents also with the DOI number. For example, if you look at the journal, there may be a table of contents, a message from the editor, right? A manuscript submission guidelines. All these are digital documents, but we cannot consider it as a citable item, right? What happens if you count that? Because since B is in the denominator, if we count that non-citable items, the impact factor will be reduced. So that's why we count only the citable items, and that will be put in the denominator so that we will get the 2008 impact factor. So in the numerator, we have the number of citations received during 2018 by the papers published in 6 and 7 divided by total number of papers published during 6 and 7. It simply means that an impact factor, if I say, for example, 2.5, if an impact factor 2.5, if I say impact factor of a journal is 2.5, it means that a paper published in that particular journal will be cited on an average 2.5 times. That is the meaning. So we know that in reality, we cannot cite a paper with the help in a fraction. We can always represent the citations in terms of integers, 2 citations, 3 citations, but here it is an average. So that's why that decimal value is also coming. So when I say an impact factor is 2.5, it means that on an average, a paper published in the journal can be cited 2.5 times. For example, if you look at the Nature journal and all, which is, the top rated journal in the field of science, it has got around between 45 and 50 is the impact factor, which means that an article published in Nature will be cited on an average 50 times. So that's why we say that Nature has got very high impact factor and all. So this is how we calculate the impact factor. It's a very simple formula. It's not that much stuff. And this is how the different websites, because let me tell you that this JCR, again, it's a document released by released by Clarivate Analytics. And JCR is also costly. Unfortunately, our university also don't have access to JCR. And sometimes I get this document from my friends or maybe from my peer group members, I get this document. Otherwise, we have to depend on these sites in the journal websites where they might have written the impact factor. But I told you, there are certain predatory journals which also shows impact factors like this, but they are not real impact factors. Those metrics are all misleading metrics. So I will just tell you how the standard publishers show their impact factors in their websites. And another important point is that in the JCR, there are a lot of different metrics. But in these journal websites, they may show only a very few metrics which are there in the JCR. So the impact factor is one metric or value or one value that has been shown in all the journal websites. But there are other metrics too, which are not shown in most of the journal homepage. But that doesn't mean that those metrics are not being used. It is there in the JCR, but certain journals only show those metrics. So if you want to get the complete details or complete metric details of a particular journal, you have to download the JCR document, which is very costly. Otherwise, you can just depend on the journal homepage. See, look here. This is a journal homepage of a Springer journal named Signal Image and Video Processing. And here you can see that at the bottom, you can see two impact factors have been shown. One is known as the simple impact factor, which is nothing but 2-year impact factor. That is 1.894, which means that on an average, a paper published in this journal will be accessed, will be cited 1.894 times. And see here, 5-year impact factor. There is another metric that is shown in JCR. What is this 5-year impact factor? It's a very simple difference. 5-year impact factor means the target period will be 5 years. That means we will consider all the papers which are published during the last 5 years. And the census will be the same 1 year. Right? So the census period will be the same for 2-year as well as for 5-year impact factor, but the target period will be different. For the first impact factor, it's a 2-year impact factor, the target period will be 2 years, and for the 5-year impact factor, the target period will be 5 years. And now what is the difference here is because if the 5-year impact factor and the 2-year impact factor, if we compare, we can say that if the value is higher, we can say that it is performing well and it is improving, we can say. And if the 2-year impact factor is less than the 5-year impact factor, we can say that its performance is a little bit low compared to the 5-year impact factor. So that comparison is possible if you go for 2-year and 5-year impact factor. It also shows how many downloads, and other details are also shown. So these are the two important metrics which are shown in the journal citation report. Now look at the Elsevier. Elsevier also has home pages like for each journal. So this is the home page of an international journal named Signal Processing, published by Elsevier. Now you can see that at the bottom they are showing the different metrics. So I will show it in the next slide because I couldn't include all those details in one slide. So I just divide into 2 parts. So here it will show the journal metrics on the left side. The page, this is how it looks like. Now you see here, impact factor is 4.086. This is a 2-year impact factor shown in the JCR. And the journal said if you move the mouse pointer here in that web page, it will show that this value is from journal citation report. So it's very clearly written. I think in all the sites that is there. When you just move the mouse over that icon, it will show that it is based on journal citation report. And see here 5-year impact factor. You can see that it's 3.653. So it means that it's improving. 2-year impact factor is higher than 5-year impact factor. So you can say it's improving. And other 3 metrics, see this: site score, source normalized impact per paper, and SCIMAGO journal ranking. These 3 metrics are not part of JCR. These 3 metrics are part of the Corpus database, or it's being released by Elsevier using the Corpus database. The other 2 is actually based on the JCR, which is supported by Web of Science or Science Citation Index. Whereas these 3 factors, that is the source normalized impact, SCIMAGO journal ranking, and site score, is actually based on the Corpus database. And the site score, if you look at, it is exactly the same as impact factor and 5-year impact factor. The only difference is that the target period is 3 years. That is the difference. The target period is 3 years. That means the Elsevier research team has done a research work, and they found out that the best target period to be used to reflect the journal's quality is the 3 years. So they have published an article on that. So they say that the 3-year impact factor is the best one because that is the best period, so that these papers will get enough time to get the citation, so that 3-year period has to be taken compared to the 2-year or 5-year impact factor. So as far as we are concerned, we have all these metrics available for the comparison. So we have 2 year, we have 3 year, and we have 5 year impact factor. But 2 year and 5 year is released by JCR. The 3 year impact factor known as site score is released by the Elsevier. That's why this metric is not shown in Springer site, because Springer site follows JCR and the site score is not there in JCR. But in Elsevier, they show all these 3 metrics because it's actually these metrics are managed by Elsevier itself. So that's why they are showing additional 3 metrics here. And what are these site score? I already mentioned. Site score is nothing but impact factor itself, the same formula. The only difference is that the target period is 3 years. That is the difference. The other two, if I get time, I will just mention later. What is this SNIP and SciMago journal rank. This is how these IEEE journals represent these metrics. See this. It is an IEEE transactions on image processing journal, and they have shown impact factor as 6.79. It is a 2 year impact factor. They have not shown 5 year impact factor, but this journal has a 5 year impact factor, but they have not shown it here. But it is there in the JCR journal citation report. It is there. Another 2 factors, metrics as they shown is the eigenfactor and article influence score. 2 important metrics shown in JCR, but other home pages don't show that. Only IEEE is showing these 2 metrics, but they are very important 2 metrics. I will come to that. So these are the 3 metrics that they are showing based on the journal citation report. So I will come to that eigenfactor later. Now, one participant has asked about what is meant by this H index, Hirsch index. So I will just define what is meant by Hirsch index. It's a very popular indexing, scientometric, most popular scientometric that is used to assess an individual scientific research output, and it is an author level metric. The other impact factor is a journal level metric. This is an author level metric. Though this H index is also used for journals too, by considering journal as an author, a journal as an individual author, but that is not correct. Actually, H index is mainly for the authors. It's an author level metric. And it is proposed by George Hirsch, and he published this article in the very famous National Academy of Science Proceedings of USA. In 2005, he published that. The definition is given there. You just read the definition first, and then I will explain what is meant by this. A scientist has index H if H of his NP papers have at least H citations each, and NP minus H papers have at most H citations. You can read it once again. A scientist has index H, that is the H index. If H of his NP papers have at least H citations each, and the remaining papers have at most H citations, right? I will just take one. So suppose a researcher is there, A, with maybe 10 papers he has. Okay, so I'm just writing the citations he got for the 10 papers in descending order. In descending order, I'm going to write. So let it be like this. So there is a researcher named A who has published around 10 research papers, and these are the citations that he got. Let it be through Web of Science, or maybe through Corpus, or maybe through Google Scholar, whatever it be. These values may vary depending on the different indexing sites. So just look at the values here. It can be applied to any indexing sites. Suppose these are the 10 publications and these are the citations received. First paper got 15 citations, second paper got 14 citations, next 10, like that goes on. I hope all of you can see this, right? Can you see this value?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So now, I think you might have already noted the definition, right? It says that how to calculate the H index, right? What is the definition? It says that scientist as index H if H of his NP papers have at least H citations each, and NP minus H papers have at most H citations, right? So what is the value of NP here? Here the value of NP is 10, right? How many papers he has published? 10 papers he has published. So here the NP is actually 10, right? Now you look at the citations. If he wants to get an H index of a particular value, all that H papers should have minimum H citations and the remaining can have at most H citations. So we'll start with 1. Definitely he will have an H index 1, right? Because one paper has got more than one citation and the other papers have already got more than one citations, right? Whether he can get H index 2, definitely the H index 2 is possible because 2 papers have more than 2 citations and all other papers have also more than 2 citations. So this H index is not 2, it's not correct, right? It is something higher than that. Let it be 3. Now if you look at 3 as the number, 3 papers have more than 3 citations and the remaining papers have also at most 3 or more than 3. So that means we have to think about the next value. Let it be 4. If you look at H index 4, the first 4 papers, if you look at all the 4 papers have more than 4 citations or at least 4 citations is there. And the remaining one have at most 4. It's at most, it can have up to 4. So that is also satisfied. So it can be H index 4. Now the next one, can this author A can have an H index value 5? Whether the author A can have H index value 5? No. Why? Because if you take the first 5 papers, right? 15, 14, 10, 8, 3. These are the 5 papers. The 5 papers should have at least 5 citations. But unfortunately here, the 5th paper have only 3 citations. Is it clear? So that's why we say that this author, based on these statistics, he can have an H index of 4 only. He cannot have an H index 5 because if we want to get an H index 5, the first 5 papers should have at least 5 citations and the remaining can have at most 5 citations. So I will make a small change to this statistic so that you can get an H index of 5. The change is very simple, but see, in reality, you may not get citations like this. You cannot simply change the citations like this, but for understanding, I'm just changing this value. So maybe I'm writing a different value here. So up to this, it was 4, H index was 4. Now, earlier it was 3, right? That's why he was not able to get an H index of 5. Now I am replacing that 3 with 5. And remaining values are all 3, right? Now what will be the H index value? Now you can see that H index is 5 because 5 papers have at least 5 citations and the remaining have at most 5 citations. So this is how H index value is increased. So we can say that this particular researcher can get a maximum H index value of, can you tell me what will be that value? Maximum H index value will be 10 because the maximum H index value he can get is equal to the number of papers he has published. But practically it's very difficult. But otherwise we can say that the maximum H index value that a research scholar can get is equal to the number of publications. That means all these values are greater than 10. If all these 10 publications are greater than 10, then his H index will be 10. And how to improve this 10? Because H index 10 is the maximum value you can get. So if you want to improve this H index to 11, he has to publish next paper. So that means that if you want to increase the H index value, you should keep on publishing research papers. Then only you will get more citations and at the same time your H index will be improved. So I hope how the H index is calculated, I think it is very clear. And I heard that yesterday Professor Sabu Thomas, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mahatma University, delivered a talk. And I'm very happy to tell you that he is the scientist who has got the highest H-index value in the Kerala state, and I think he's in the top 4 in the country. His H-index value is more than 100, which means that his 100 of the total published papers, 100 papers have got at least 100 citations, and the remaining papers have got at most 100 citations. So that's the meaning of this H-index, right? And CNR also has very high H-index value. So these are the top scientists have very high H-index value. So okay. So is it clear? The H-index value, how computed? I hope it is clear. In the same way, we have another metric known as the G index, that is known as the AG index, which is published in 2006 by Leo AG from Belgium. And there is a slight difference compared to the H-index, but H-index is a popular metric being used, but it has got a problem there. So in order to overcome that problem to a particular extent, they introduced the G index. I will tell you what the problem is. If you look at the H index, suppose you have published 4 papers and all the 4 papers have got 4 citations each. So it's guaranteed that your H index will be 4 because all the 4 papers have at least 4 citations. So H index value will be 4. Now consider another research scholar who also have published 4 papers. And his citation records are like this. All values are above 100. All the 4 papers have got citations above 100. But the other candidate has only 4 citations for each paper. Now, if you look at the H-index value of these 2 scholars, it will be exactly the same. Right? Because the first scholar have 4 papers and all the 4 papers are 4 citations each. So H-index is 4. And the second scholar has also published 4 papers and he has got more than 100 citations for each paper, and still his research H-index value is 4. The reason is he has got only 4 papers and all the 4 papers have at least 4 citations each. So if you look at the H-index value here, we cannot simply compare these 2 people because both these scholars have same H-index value. But you know that the second scholar is brilliant because all the 4 papers he has published is classic papers. That's why he or she has received a lot of citations. But the H-index value is exactly the same, 4 and 4. In such situations, we have to think about some other metrics to overcome this problem. And one such metric, it's not given here. One simple metric is known as the excess index. It's not as an E index. It's not the G. G has got another advantage. I will tell that. That index is known as the E index. Excess citations that you got, that is known as E index. So what it does is, it will just subtract the minimum number required for getting that H index from the total number. And the remaining one will be taken for considering the excess index. I will tell you this example. I told you, the first author has 4 papers and he has published 4, about 4 citations each. So total, what will be the value? 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, that is equal to 16. So 16 is the minimum citations required for getting an H index of 4. So that is the number 16. What about the other one? The other author? It's more than 100. So for simplicity, we'll take it as 100. So 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 100, that is 400. And the other candidate is 16. Now what we do is, we will remove the minimum required amount to get the H index value 4, that is 16. That will be subtracted. So from the first order, 16 will be subtracted. So it will be 0. And from the second order, 400 minus 16, we will cover it. So it will become around 384 will be the value that you get. And we will take the square root of that so that you can compare it with H index because it's the square value, right? So we take the square root of that one. So that index is known as the excess index. So whenever you have 2 scholars who have the same H index value, you can opt for another metric known as the E index. The method is like this. Suppose we have two scholars with an H index value 5. Let me take another value 5. Both of them have their H index value 5. So for the first order, they somehow managed to get H index 5 by getting the minimum value. So it will be 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. So that is 25. So the 25 is the minimum number required for getting a citation with H index value 5. If it is 10, it is 100, like that. It goes on. It's a square value. So 5 means it is 25. So that 25 will be subtracted from that. So it will be 0. There is no excess value. From the second scholar also, we will do the same. And if there is an excess value, we will take the square root of that. And that will show the excess citations that the scholar has received in addition to the minimum number required for getting the current X index value. So that is known as the E index or the excess index. G index is actually used for solving the problem like this. An author might have published several papers, maybe let it be 10 papers. The example that we have taken there. So I think we'll take the same example so that you can. So see this example. What was actually the H index value of this particular candidate? It was actually 5, because all the 5 papers have got at least 5 citations. But the remaining papers have only 3 citations each, but still they are not taken into consideration. And even the 15 has also been, the higher citation has also been not taken into consideration, because he just looks at how many papers have got at least the 5 citations. But we'll take another example here. Let the citation patterns are like this. Again 10 publications, and you know that the H index is again 5, because all the 5 papers have at least 5 citations, and the remaining have at most 5 citations. So H index value will be 5. But if I take G index, I will say that here the G index value is 10. You can again go above that, but here he has published only 10 papers. The reason is, in G index we will add all these citations together, and that number should cross the square of that. So for example, here the total number of journals published is 10, and we'll take it one by one. So if G is equal to 1 means the 1 squared is 1. So one paper should have more than 1 citations. If G is equal to 2, the squared value is 4. So the 2 papers together should have more than 4 citations. G index value is 3. It means that all the 3 papers together, they should have more than 9 ones. So here it is 3. Then 4 means all the 4 papers together should have more than 16. 5 means all the papers together should have more than 25. It's definitely there. And 6 means, there comes the difference. G index value 6 means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the 6 papers together should have more than 36 citations. That is also there. And 7 papers, 49, it is there. 8 papers, 64, it is there. 9, 81 citations, more than 81 citation is there. 10, 100, it's definitely there. So because altogether it has more than 10 citations. So G index value is 10, but H index is only 5. This metric is used to distribute the citations to those papers also which has been recently published and not yet started receiving the citations. So you can distribute that citations to the journals which have received less citations or which may be recently published, so that we can solve this issue. Because one good researcher may be publishing a lot of papers maybe in a year compared to a poorly performing scholar. So their H index value sometimes may be the same, but he is continuing the publication. So these papers which has got good citations can be distributed among the papers which have been published recently, so that the G index value will be higher. So that's the advantage of using a G index. But G index is not shown in all the size, only H index is being shown, but this is one article that has been published in Scientometrics to overcome some of the limitations of H index value. Okay, next important metric is widely used. I told you in that IEEE journal publication, they have shown eigenfactor there, right? That is a very important metric that is being used. So I will just simply explain what is meant by, because I cannot spend more time on the calculation of this, but very simply I will just tell you what is meant by this eigenfactor. Eigenfactor is an important metric for assessing the quality of a journal and how it differs from impact factor. In impact factor, you know, we are not given any priority to the citations coming from a particular journal. Sometimes the citation that is coming to a paper may be from a top journal, a highly reputed journal. Sometimes it may be from a low impact factor journals. So in such cases, in the case of calculating the impact factor, we give same priority to both those citations, because whether it comes from high impact factor journal or whether it comes from a low impact factor journal, the weightage given will be the same. But in eigenfactor, it gives a particular weight to those, higher weight to those citations which comes from a highly reputed journal, and it gives low weight to a journal which comes from a low impact factor journal. And also it eliminates self-citation, because if that citation is from the same authors, if the authors are citing their own paper, that self-citation will also be removed, and the remaining citations coming from outside, only those will be taken into consideration. And also it gives the weightage. The weightage is like this, that is a high impact factor. The citation coming from a high impact factor journal will be given more weightage, and citation coming from a low impact factor journal will be given less weightage. And this is how the eigenfactor is actually computed. And this value, if you look at it, they are all very small values, because what they have done is they have taken all the journals in the JCR report, because it is based on the Web of Science. So they consider all the journals, and when you add all the eigenfactor values, it will come up to 100. They have scaled the values in such a way that when you add all the eigenfactor values, it will add up to 100, which simply means that out of these scientific achievements or scientific impact being created by all the journals in the world, what is the proportion of this particular journal in that whole contribution? That's what eigenfactor says. I hope it is clear. All the eigenfactor values, if you look at the total journals in the JCR, if you add all the eigenfactor values, it will add up to 100. Right? So a particular value of a journal indicates that out of the total added value is 100, right? So what is the proportion, or what is the contribution of that particular journal out of the total scientific contributions? That's what eigenfactor indicates. And in order to have a comparative study, I will just give the eigenfactor value of Nature. The eigenfactor value of Nature is 1.3 or 4 something. So which means that out of the total contributions of all the journals in all the fields, when you add it together, the Nature is having a eigenfactor value of 1.53, which is actually compared to the, relatively if we compare, it will be a very high value. And they have also done another scaling known as the eigenfactor normalizing. I'm not going to talk about that, because these values is very difficult for a common man to interpret. So they have converted that into a normalized form, where what they have done is an average journal. They say that if you look at the JCR, there will be a journal known as average journal that will have an eigenfactor 1. So all the journals which have an eigenfactor less than 1, we call it as the below average journals. And all the metrics which has eigenvalue above 1, we call it as above average journals. And that value is somewhat more easy to interpret compared to the actual eigenfactor value. So the difference you have to be very clear. The difference is that it does not give equal weightage to all the citations. It gives weightage to higher weightage to the citation from top journals and lesser weightage from the low impact factor journals. So this is how this is the site known as eigenfactor.org, or otherwise it is there in the JCR. There is no need to come to this site. If you have the JCR document, it is there in that. And this is the eigenfactor that I told you, 0.051. So this IEEE transaction on image processing has an eigenfactor of 0.051. That is the proportion of the total all journals in all fields together. That's what it says. And you can see that the third column, which I mentioned, eigenfactor normalized, that is 5.9. Now it is more, more interpretable, right? Just looking at 0.051, it's very difficult to understand what does it mean. But eigenfactor normalized is very easy. It's 5.9, it's above 1, right? 1 is the average value, a journal value, journal eigenfactor value. So 5.9 means it's above average and it's a very good value. So it's more easy to interpret this eigenscore if you have a normalized eigenfactor value. That's what it indicates. And this is very simple. This is known as the article influence score. If you have a normalized eigenfactor score, you divide it by total number of articles published during the past 5 years, you will get an average impact of that, or average influence of that article, and that is known as the article influence score. So here also average article have an influence of 1. So here it is 1.9 means all the articles published in IEEE transactions on image processing have an average article influence score of nearly 2, which is above the average. That is a value that indicates 1.9 indicates that. So these two columns, it's very easy to interpret. Just look at the value and see whether it is below 1 or above 1. If it is above 1, it means it's above the average value, and below 1 means it's below average. So the performance is a little bit lesser, but top journals will always have above 1. So its performance is good. So that's the meaning of it. The difference is that it is based on the weightage given to the citation. And another important thing is that I told you, I think I forgot the name of the teacher who asked about why the accreditation agencies are not looking at the Google Scholar. I think that was a question, if I remember, that teacher has asked. This is the reason. Look at this particular slide. This is known as the PubLons. Earlier it was known as the researcher ID. Now it has been changed to PubLons. This particular statistics I have shown here is based on the Web of Science, right? Web of Science or the Science Citation Index. So that means only the top rated journals citations will only be recorded here. So you will never get the same citation pattern as in the case of Google Scholar or Corpus. Corpus I have already shown. I think if you remember, I think you might have seen that is only 575 or 579. That was the citation I received in Corpus. But here, if you look at this, less than that, it's only 373, which means that here the index, here the citation is tracked based on the Web of Science index journals. So only the citations coming from the Web of Science index journals only, or the Science Citation Index journals only, will be taken into consideration here. That's why that citation value is lesser. So this PubLons is, I think, all the scholars who are attending this webinar, maybe after this class, you have to go, those who have published papers should go and create a profile in PubLons. It's very easy. You just register and add your papers there, and it automatically calculates the citations, and you can create a profile like this. Automatically it will create a profile which you can share with your friends. So this is one profile. Here you can see that it shows H index 11. Total citations 373. Number of papers published is 93. And these two are actually reviewing which I've done. I think during the introduction, I think Ratika has mentioned about the reviewing duties that I've taken for the 55 journals. So the papers, how many papers I've reviewed, all these will be recorded here. So this is actually the Web of Science base. And here also see this, here, I've linked this Web of Science with Orchid. So we can link all these indexing sites, PubLons, Google Scholar, and all these can be linked with Orchid. So it is very easy, so that the duplicate records being created can be avoided if you have this Orchid ID, and we can even exchange the data from Orchid to PubLons, PubLons back to Orchid. All these are possible here. So this is the PubLons website, a very important site as far as the researchers are concerned. Even in IITs and all, they ask for PubLons ID, or PubLons ID means this one, researcher ID. But researcher ID site has gone. Now there shows it as in the form of a new product known as the PubLons. And here you can see that earlier researcher ID is also linked here. This is the ID, researcher ID. And this is how the Google Scholar look like. See the difference? What is the citation here? Here 1060. So I will be very happy. compared to the other two citations, it's better I always show this 1060, right? But that doesn't mean that this is bad. Google Scholar is a very good indexing site, and also most of the IIT professors and top institutes, professors from top institutes in the world, they use only the Google Scholar. They are not giving the Publons and Corpus ID, but they give only the Google Scholar profile because of the accuracy, and it indexes most of the journals and conference proceedings. But you should be aware. That's why I'm telling this, because I cannot hide those details. That's why I mentioned that Publons and Corpus also you should compare. So that if you are performing well, there also that citation increase should be seen, right? For example, if I have 1000 citations here and only 10 or 20 citations in Web of Science and Corpus, that's not a good record. So if your citation is increasing in Google Scholar, at the same way, there also you should see some kind of increase in the index value. So this is how the Google Scholar looked like, and here you can see that each paper title is a link, so you can click it and you can go to the repository of that paper. And here you can see the citation index. One person has asked about citation index because when people come for the accreditation, we have to give the citation index of each paper. So this is one site from where you can get it, or you can go to the Scopus also from where you can get the, but the values will be different. So this 90 indicates that 90 documents have referred this particular paper. And if I click this 90, this is a web link. If I click this 90, it will go to it will show all the 90 papers which have referred my paper. So you can see who all have referred my paper, from which part of the world those research group belong to. All those details you can get it. So it's very nicely designed site. And here you look at citation records shown. All together I have 1060 and 17 as the index, and I10 index is 32. I10 index is a simple metric, very simple metric. How many papers have got more than 10 citations? That is I10 index. So 32 means that out of this around, I think around 95 documents, 32 documents have got more than 10 citations. That's why it's written as I10 index as 32. And this column indicates how I am performing during the last 5 years. If this value is very small, it means that I'm not an active researcher during the last 5 years. But here you can see that the last 5 years also I'm receiving moderately good citations, which means that I can say that I'm an active researcher during the last 5 years too, because that's why I'm receiving citations during the last 5 years. So this is how it can be coming. This column is all together. This is during the last 5 years. And also that another advantage of this site is that you can see here it lists all the co-authors of my research papers. So somebody who is visiting this particular page can also visit the pages of my co-authors. So they can see how I have established collaborations with other researchers from institutes, other national level, or maybe the institutes outside the state, and maybe the institutes outside India. So all those collaborations they can see here. They can look at their citations too, so they can see how well our research collaborations are going on. So all these details can be accessed from this website. So this is how this Google Scholar looks like. And these are the this metric I have already explained, site score. It's a 3-year impact factor. So these are the 3 metrics which is actually given by the Elsevier journal metrics. And SJR is actually exactly the same as eigenfactor. So I'm not going to explain SJR again. The only difference is that SJR also gives weightage to the citations. The only difference is that SJR is powered by Scopus, whereas eigenfactor is powered by Web of Science. That is a difference. So make it very clear, SJR is powered by Scopus and eigenfactor is powered by Web of Science. But otherwise, the concept is exactly the same. But this one is different. It's a very important one. It's there is Engaf Moit from University of Leiden has introduced this as an IP, source normalized impact per paper. I will just mention one sentence about this, and after that I will skip. SNIP is nothing but from the terminology itself is very clear. Source normalized impact per paper, which means that suppose you belong to the field of mathematics and I belong to the field of medicine. I might have published a research paper in a medical journal which has got the highest impact factor, maybe Lancet. You might have heard about Lancet, which is recently a lot of papers about COVID-19 is coming in Lancet. So Lancet is considered as the topmost journal in the field of medicine. And suppose I published a paper in Lancet. Lancet has got very high impact factor. You have published a paper in a mathematics journal, which also has been published in a high impact factor journals, right? And suppose one journal is there who is going to cite my paper in that, because that particular paper is getting citation from I have already cited a particular paper from a journal, so that citation is going to that journal from Lancet, right? And similarly, that journal is receiving a citation from another low impact factor, mathematics journal too. So if you look at the citation pattern, the medical journals, if you look at, it is getting a citation from a high impact factor journal, that is Lancet 53, maybe let it be 53 is the impact factor. In the same way, mathematics field also has got a high impact factor journal, let it be 2. So what happens here is, if you look at SJR or Reagan factor, if they give the weightage, we can see here, Lancet citation will be given higher weightage. Why? Because it has got 53. Because it has got 53 as the impact factor. Whereas in the case of mathematics journal, its impact factor is only 2. So the weightage will be less. But we know that in the medicine field, Lancet is the top impact factor journal with 53. And in the mathematics field, this particular journal is the high impact factor journal with impact factor 2. So in SNIP, they will normalize this according to the field, which means that getting a citation from Lancet is considered as this is equivalent to getting a citation from the top rated mathematics journal. So that is the advantage here. So that is known as a source normalized impact factor paper. So in the medical field, if a medical journal is getting a citation from Lancet, and suppose I'm giving a weightage 2 there, the same way in the mathematics field, if a journal is getting a citation from a top rated mathematics journal, that will also get a weightage of 2. That is why we said it is source normalized impact per paper, right? I hope it is clear. Hope you understood that. And I told you now about this UGC Carelist will go to this particular site. So if you want to check whether your journal is indexed in Scopus, you can come to this particular page. It's known as the scopus.com/sources. The site is nothing but www.scopus.com/sources. Or you can come from the UGC Carelist also, you can come to this site. And here you can see, you can select the title and you can type the title or ISSN, both are possible. You can give the 8-digit ISS number here, or you can give the title of the journal here and click this button, and if it is indexed, it will show the details here. So you can see the site score, the SNIP and all is shown there, but I've just cropped this, so that's why you're not able to see that. It also shows SNIP and SGR values. So this is the site score, 3-year impact factor shown there. So here I have just searched for a neurocomputing journal. So it's shown like this, neurocomputing, site score is 5, which is a 3-year impact factor. So like this, you can search whether the journal is indexed in Scopus or not. So this is the site that UGC also has very clearly mentioned in the UGC Carelist. Right? So I'm skipping this, I've already mentioned about this. And if those who want to download a software, there is a software known as Publish or Perish. That's known as the POP. You can download it, and it shows all the metrics which I have mentioned, like H index, G index, and all. You can just download this software, and you can just add your Google profile here, like this. I have done here. The Google profile I've added, and you can, all the papers which I've shown in Google Scholar will also be shown in this software. The advantage is that Google Scholar shows only H index and I-10 index, but here we will get several other indexes too. So I don't have enough time now to speak about all other indexes. Maybe some other time I will speak about the other metrics. So this software is very useful. Once you learn all other metrics, you can use this software to have a comparative study. So all the papers which are shown in Google will be shown here. So this software is powered by Google. You can also use Microsoft Academic Research also, or Web of Sciences background. But here I've used Google Scholar as the supporting database. So that's why it shows exactly the same value. See here, you can see 1060. It is exactly the same value shown in Google Scholar too. So this software can be downloaded, and if you want, you can use it. It works in both Linux as well as in Windows. You can download it. So I hope you might have enjoyed. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So I hand over to Radhika.
think there are more questions in Q&A session. Can you read it, sir?
1 minute. Questions are there?
It's in Q&A session, I think.
Q&A session, okay. Okay. So one question is from Sweetlin Suslabai that says that I have to answer all the questions or
No, sir.
No, not necessarily, sir.
Selective only, sir.
because I can see a lot of questions there.
No.
Yeah.
Sir, I viewed my name in Corpus author, but I could not able to view how many papers published. So I think that I've already answered. Because only those papers which are indexed in Corpus only will be shown in Corpus site. You might have published maybe 20 papers, but that doesn't mean that all the 20 papers may be indexed in Corpus. So only those papers which are indexed in Corpus will be shown in the Corpus author profile. So let me make that very clear. Can you suggest best Corpus publication for science? How can I suggest that? Because there are numerous journals in Corpus. So in your field, you find out your best journal by going through I told the records, JCR, then Corpus or a science citation index. You go through the index and see whether it is indexed in top indexing sites. Then you can definitely communicate that to the journal. I cannot suggest it because there are a lot of good science journals. How can I select a one? So it's better. I don't know in which field you are working. If you are working in nanotechnology, there are a lot of nanotechnology journals are there. If you are working in biotechnology, a lot of biotechnology journals are there. So it's very difficult to specifically say best journal. How can I query about Corpus author profile? I think that I've very clearly shown. You can just go to the Google and type Corpus author profile free search. That is enough because we are all very good in Googling, right? So you just go there and type Corpus author profile, a search, and the first link you can click it and go to the page that I've shown. And there you can give the last name, first name, and affiliation, and it will show your profile. Sir, I published a paper in Corpus in 2018, but now the journal is not in Corpus. Definitely it may happen. I already shown that DOI has removed 3,300 journals from their list, and in future also it may happen. That's why I'm telling that you should only look at the science citation index journals, because if you publish it in that journal, very rare that the journals from SCI gets removed. It will be removed. Let me tell you that incident too. There are certain journals which are indexed in SCI being removed because of a problem known as citation stacking. Citation stacking means there are certain journals which intentionally try to improve their impact factor because it's a competition, right? They intentionally try to increase their impact factor by asking the authors of the papers to cite most of the papers published in the journal, right? So automatically the journal's impact factor will get increased. That is known as the citation stacking, right? The publisher asking the authors to cite the papers which has already published in the journal. So in that case, the JCR will find that and they will blacklist that journal. So likewise also the journals may get removed. And in Corpus, let me tell you that Corpus is not an error-free indexing site and all. There are a lot of predatory journals being indexed, still being indexed in Corpus. So you have to be very careful. You have to make sure you have to go to their website, you have to go to their previous volumes, whether they are maintaining the standard. All these aspects has to be taken into consideration. And that's the reason I again want to stress that it's better you communicate. That's what I am doing. I'm not at all looking at the Corpus index journals. I am looking at only the SC index journal. If possible, I will communicate only to the SC indexed journals. If not possible, then you can try with any of the Corpus indexed journals. So first give highest preference to the SC indexed journals. There are a lot of free plagiarism tools available, Sweetlin. I already told you it's better you don't go after such kind of free tools because we are not sure whether it covers all the databases. That is the important aspect because even Orchid, I'm facing this problem because even the Dr Kumar from Inflipnet is saying that it's an error-free software or not. They may be improving. Maybe in future it may become a good software, but at present scenario, I'm telling that the Orchid is not performing well as far as I'm concerned. It's my personal experience. So it's better you go for the standard software such as Turnitin and Identicate. You just go to those institutions where you have access to this, get permission from them and use it. That is the only option left. can I give reference by their own published one? Is that self-plagiarism? Self-plagiarism is, I told you, you can always cite your research papers in the next paper being communicated. That is always possible. There is no harm in that. The problem is about plagiarism. If you just simply copy all the paragraphs from the already published paper, it is a self-plagiarism. And it's not our right to copy, since it belongs to our paper. Since we publish the paper, it's not our right to copy the entire content in the next paper. We cannot do that. So self-plagiarism is also an act of plagiarism. We should never do that. Because now the paper is an asset of those publishers. We already transferred the copyright. So we cannot say that that paper is being owned by us. We have published it, but it's now being owned by those publishers. So we have to get the permission from them if we want to copy a lot of content from that paper in the next paper. No, DOI number does not, even ISSN or DOI is not at all a quality parameter. Earlier, I think you remember when the first 2010 UGC regulations came, there was a clause that you should publish a paper in ISSN or ISBN journals or proceedings. That clause was there. So people thought that this ISSN or ISBN is something like a quality parameter. Because if you publish a journal in ISSN or ISBN proceedings, it's something great. No, because ISSN number and ISBN number is a minimum requirement for a journal or a proceedings to be indexed in the international indexing sites. So that ISSN number and as well as ISBN number is a must for most of the journals. And DOI is also a new move towards accessing these documents, because you know DOI is actually used for solving the problem known as 404 error found. Have you seen that? Sometimes when you try to access a paper, it will show that this site is not available. 404 error, the site is not found, right? But once this DOI is assigned, you will never face that 404 problem, because because this International DOI Federation has given a very clear direction to all the publishers that when they move the repository from one place to another, the meta records have to be properly updated in the IDF server. So as I told earlier, one of my Springer paper is now being published by Taylor and Francis, but the DOI number is exactly the same. It is not changed. So they have changed the metadata in the IDF server. So when somebody comes and click that link, DOI number, it is going to the Taylor and Francis web server, not to the Springer server, because they have already updated the meta record. So DOI is also a standard which most of the standard publishers are following. And DOI, I think all the standard journals present today have this technology, using this DOI technology. So if there is any journal which does not use DOI, it's better you avoid that journal. Right. It's not a quality parameter, but it's something that you should definitely do when you start publishing a journal. That's it. Again, the same question, so I'm not answering that. How can we able to know any journal it is under Corpus journal? I already told you. The site is www.scopus.com/sources. You go there and you can check whether the journal is indexed in Corpus. I think somebody has asked about citation styles. That will not come under the purview of this webinar. I think maybe some other time I can talk about that. MLA style, IEEE Elsevier style and all. I think we'll find some other time. Is it good to publish a paper in conference or not? If it is a top conference, definitely the idea should be presented first in conference. If you can go there and present it, make sure that it's a top conference. Most of the foreign scholars do that. They first come for a conference, top conference. They will share their ideas first there, and they will come back. Once the paper is accepted, they will present there and they will get the suggestions. They will come back and again work on that problem, and then they will communicate a good research paper to the top journals. That's what they normally do. We also do that, but it's not necessary that only after publishing a conference paper only you can communicate it to the journal. That's not there, but that will be good practice if you can go and present your work in front of the August audience. That will be good. Like to know more about Orchid? I told you it's a non-profit research group who have started this Orchid technology. All of you all who are listening to this webinar should register in Orchid today itself, because Orchid ID will become a must for submitting a manuscript. I think those who have already published papers, they might have linked this Orchid ID. Those who have not, definitely you have to start your Orchid ID today itself. self-plagiarism, you can see that in the report itself. If it is self-plagiarized, in that report itself, you can see your paper and the contents will also be shown. I don't know how many of you have seen that plagiarism report. It's a very good software. It will show paragraph by paragraph. It will show the contents that has been copied and how many percentage has been copied. So if self-plagiarism is there, your paper will also be shown there. That's one important question. So let me answer on that too. Because wherever I go for this presentation, people come and ask about, sir, whether the content of the thesis, most of the content of the thesis will also be published in the paper, right? And it will come in Shodhganga too. So whether it is a kind of plagiarism. Let me tell you that Delhi, I'm just taking one example, Delhi University, if you take, they actually ask the research scholars to submit a document along with the thesis. That is known as the document is known as the, I forgot the name, in which we have to specify the papers which has been published as part of this work. That has to be removed from the plagiarism checking. So when you submit the thesis, you will also give this declaration signed by the scholar as well as the guide. And you will mention all the papers which are published as part of this thesis work. So what they do is when they use this software to find out the plagiarism, definitely these papers will be listed there. Definitely it will be listed. So what they do is they will take this statement given by the research scholar and they will look at the papers, and all those papers will be unchecked in that software, so that the percentage will get reduced. Otherwise, it may be 40-45% similarity will show, because UGC regulation says that it should be less than 10. But when they compare, it should be 45. But as soon as you remove these, uncheck these papers, it will get reduced to 10%. So that document has to be given along with the thesis. But unfortunately, in Kerala, in other universities in Kerala, they are not asking this document. But we go and go to the librarian and say that, okay, this paper is published as part of the thesis. So here also the people face that problem. I already mentioned that such a document has to be received from the candidate. I hope soon they will implement this. Okay. Even in central universities, thesis 20% of plagiarism is allowed. I think that I can comment on this. That's actually the policies of the universities. But actually the UGC regulation is 10%. So I cannot answer that. For H-index, actually all the authors will get the credit. Because if you look at my H-index, it's based on all the co-author publications. It's not based on my first author publication. So H-index is calculated based on the citations received for that paper. So if you are a co-author on that, you will also get the H-index. It will be used for calculating the H-index. Is paid journal or SCI? See, we cannot say that because there are certain open access journals which are being indexed in SCI. For example, PLOS One, that is an SC index journal. It's an open access journal, but you have to pay. But that doesn't mean that they will not review the paper and publish as such. Strong review will be undergone, and only after the review only it will be published. But you have to pay because it is an open access. So paid journals are not all paid journals are not predatory journals. Paid journals can be open access journals, but make sure that it is published by the standard publishers. It is indexed in indexing sites, and good review you are getting. Then definitely you can publish papers in that. Anything else if I've left out?
I think you made it very clear.
Yeah. Dr Kumar sir, is it okay?
Sir, your audio is more.
Yeah, very good presentation. Excellent performance by my dear friend. And I totally really excited. See, that means this is very, very useful for the researchers and a valuable contribution from your side to the research community. Absolutely.
Because I was really upset by the records which I've seen 2 days back. I told you at the beginning, because only it's 0.77, all the state universities together. So definitely it's our responsibility, it's collective responsibility to increase that impact, citation impact value more than 1, so that will be above average. So I hope soon it will change.
That means surely we have to address this factor. Majority of the researchers, they don't know how to perform these articles based on the impact factor or H index or like that citation index. They are totally unaware of these items.
Yeah.
Simply they are doing the research and preparing the work and publish it any one of the journal. But even though they have a good quality to publish in reputed journals, but most of them don't know how to publish, what is the relevance of this publish in the reputed journals or high impact factor journals, or so that is the issue.
Yeah, I think in the conventional science field, to some extent it is okay. I think if I look at, but other emerging fields.
Sir, we have two research departments in commerce and chemistry. Both are research departments, and we are planning to upgrade our other departments, PG departments, to research departments. So that definitely we need your extended cooperation in future also.
Definitely. So thanks for the opportunity for giving a session to all of you. Thanks for the patient listening to.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you once again for providing us a clear picture of what a researcher should know before publishing his or her work. Thank you. And to formally propose the vote of thanks to all gathered here, I invite Mrs. Sri Lakshmi, Department of Commerce.
Thank you, teacher. Good evening to all, respected dignitaries and dear participants. It gives me immense pleasure to deliver vote of thanks for this session of VIRTUOSA2020. Today, we have an excellent session that is handled by Dr. Madhu S. Nair. It is a wonderful session. The sir is handling the session for almost 3 hours without any interruption. From our part, on behalf of our IQAC team and on behalf of our college and on behalf of all participants, I express our sincere gratitude to you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to express our thanks to our dear principal, Dr. K.S. Anil Kumar, sir, for being the backbone of all our endeavors and constantly inspiring us. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Then I would like to express our sincere, wholehearted gratitude to the participants, all the participants, for making this event a grand success with their interaction and participation. Thank you all.
Please stay a minute for some important announcements by the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Jayashree.
So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Madhu sir, because this was an excellent presentation. I was going through the chat box and question answer box. I could see so many comments which are stating that it's very excellent. Thank you, sir. And I feel that all the research scholars and teachers are very much benefited from your talk. You are a wonderful man because you continuously talk for 3 hours. Really appreciable. Really appreciable, sir. Thank you very much. Now my comment, thank you, sir. Now my comment is, there is an announcement. Today's session we have environment and development, a post-COVID perspective. And the resource person is Dr. A. Kumar from Aquatic and Biology Department, University, Aquatic Biology and Fisheries Department, University of Kerala. So all participants are requested to be here at 2 p.m. itself. The link for that session will be sent your email. So please check for that. Okay, now we can go. Have a good day.
Thank you all for your wonderful participation, and today's session is over.
Please convey my regards to Vijay sir. He is also my well-wisher from University of Kerala. So please convey my regards.
Okay, of course, sir. Of course, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure, sir. Definitely, we will in touch with you, sir. So okay, your valuable support we need. We have to encourage our research departments more and more to the need of the society.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The meeting is coming to an end.